is Nick Briggs, and you're listening to Traveling the Vortex.
We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 82. And yes, Traveling the Vortex is the 701st greatest wonder of the universe. I'm Keith.
It is now. Everyone melted.
Well, now we've just moved up on the list.
We moved up on the list.
All right.
We're 700 now.
All right, we are 700 now.
Claiming it. I'm Sean.
And I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Good, very good. It's been a good weekend.
This has been an awesome
Yeah. We all did the same thing this
We did.
weekend.
Ironically.
Not all of us together, but
Not
we all
together,
did the
but-
same thing. A third of us
yeah.
did together. Well, two-thirds of us did together.
It just didn't work out as
Not at the same time.
Well, yeah.
in sync as I mean,
it wasn't
it
as
was,
in
but
sync.
it wasn't. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
You guys are all welcome. I let you know about all the cool things that are going on here.
Actually, I had planned that months before.
On that Saturday,
Not on
though.
that Saturday, but I had planned on going that months before you had orchestrated it. It happened to serendipity, coincidentally, falling on the same day at the same time.
Because I thought it was funny
which
that
was
I hung
John
out.
planning on going, or was did he go because of us?
John went because of you guys.
Okay, that's
yeah.
what
In
I
fact,
wondered.
we didn't. I feel a little bad because I didn't know he wanted to go. My cousin Beth had set this up. Maybe we should start from the beginning. Just leave the.
We went down to Wichita for Star Wars, where science meets imagination.
Okay, I was going to turn around and show you my back. It's on my shirt.
It's a traveling Star Wars display, and this is the first time it's ever been to Kansas or our area, not even in Kansas City. So
Right.
we all made the trek down to Wichita, which is about 2.5 hours away.
Ironically, I read it's going to Kansas City next.
Oh, is it?
That's what I've seen on the internet. So
I'll go again.
I wouldn't go again.
I don't know if
it
I'd
was
go
good. It was fantastic.
I'd go again.
If the
I don't
price-
need
if
to.
the
I
price
read
was a little
everything.
lower.
I spent a lot of time in that place and read everything. Anyway, keep going, Keith.
And so we went down there, and John Boy, joined us for that activity since he lives in Wichita.
Yeah, actually, he lives in Haven, which is
Haven.
about 20 minutes from Wichita.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Close enough.
He lives in the area.
Yep.
So we got to meet Zoe,
his daughter.
his daughter, and his sister. I'm blanking on her name
If
now.
I can remember her name, I'll be accomplished. And I don't. I'm
Sadly,
sorry.
I can't remember her name either.
Oh,
Sorry, John's sister.
and we met John's sister.
And we met John's sister.
And quasi his wife, shortly.
Yeah, Jenny. She came
Yeah.
picked up Zoe.
At the theater, yeah.
Yep.
And they went and saw Ice Age.
Oh, they did.
Because
Oh,
we
cool.
went and saw The Dark Knight Rises
Right.
at the Warren IMAX.
The world famous.
The world
Warren
famous
IMAX.
Warren IMAX.
And Zoe's only 6,
That sounds
5,
right.
maybe, and very, very, very much too young for.
Very much too
But
young.
she was
Dark
very
Knight.
cute in her Who Let the Dogs Out shirt.
And terrified of me for some reason.
All of us.
So,
Just
and
wouldn't
then
talk or
another friend of ours, actually, his family went down based on the fact that you guys were going yesterday as well.
Well, we had discussed going to see Dark Knight Rises in IMAX because so much of it was shot in IMAX. And we had gone to see Hunger Games in
which,
Kansas
by the way,
City.
I saw it not in IMAX, and you can't tell.
Oh, no, but it was still an amazing spectacle to behold.
ours was longer.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
IMAX presentation is. I don't know how much longer, but it's
Oh,
longer.
I'll be darned. You get an extra scene.
Probably.
Because it's just that much more
doesn't,
awesome.
Doesn't that
Doesn't add that
doesn't
much.
add that much? But that's cool. That's neat.
I just want you eating your heart out.
Oh,
That you
no.
didn't come with.
Well, what happened was I had coordinated a plan to go down with my family, some of my family. My cousin, Beth, she had invited us, me, and my other cousin, David. David and I are huge Star Wars fans. And so she had asked to coordinate a time to go down and go through this Star Wars exhibit with them. And it just happened that this was the weekend that we had free and coordinated that. Now, I apologize to John because I didn't realize he was a fan, and I didn't mean to exclude him from our plans. It wasn't until he was there with you guys. I knew that he was going to the Dark Knight because I think one of you guys had told me he had mentioned that he was going to do that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was going to do the Star Wars thing as well.
I think he was
so-
kind of up in the air. I know he he mentioned during Friday Night Who that he wasn't sure if they were going to make it to Star Wars and if he was going to bring Zoe.
Okay.
I don't think he fully knew his
everything
plans
kinda
until the morning. It just came together just great.
Because we certainly would have invited
Zoe
him.
hasn't seen any of them either.
We
told
certainly,
me. So.
yeah, we certainly would have invited him had we known that he was.
I feel a little bad because
receptive to that.
Being the kind of event coordinator and having Mel and Billy with me, and then a friend of mine, Brent from Sprint, came down, and then obviously Keith and Blake and Sarah, and and then running into John Boy, running into you, running into Dave and his family, and having all these balls kind of in the air with different peripheral groups of people, I kind of felt like I didn't really get to spend much time with John at all.
Right,
so I felt bad because it was like, okay, well, we're going to go over here, we'll see you later, and then we'd bump into him again in another part of the exhibit. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, okay, I'll see you later. And then, so I felt bad that it wasn't more of a coordinated effort, but it was a good time. We had a lot of fun.
Well, and I barely saw you guys because I think I got there about maybe an hour later than you guys did because we went for lunch and everything. Yeah, we didn't get over there until about noon, maybe 12:30.
We got there after that.
Yeah, we got there.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, then you guys blew through that exhibit a lot faster than we did. Well, I take that back. Because we actually did. Did you guys do any of the rest of the?
We blew through the
you
rest
blew through
of
the
it.
rest of it. See, we did with our time because we had the kids with us. Yeah, and they did the castle, and they did all of the stuff.
That was
in
full
the
of screaming.
Yeah.
We walked through the castle. I was like, wow.
It was like, hey, look, a castle. Okay, we're walking.
If I were 20 years younger, I would love that.
It's a very, very cool kids thing.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, I think, to me, of the Discovery Center part, or the Exploration Center part that's always there, that was the coolest thing.
Well,
in the
three
sense that my kids enjoyed that. The other things, there were neat things.
The wind wall.
The wind
that
wall
was my
neat.
favorite.
Yeah, the
that
wind
was
wall
so
was
cool.
Anyway,
the little silver.
yeah,
blew
okay.
You blew the fans at the thing. And
I'm gonna put one of those in my house.
Did you guys go into the Millennium Falcon show?
We didn't.
Based on Dave's reply, which David sent a text early because they got down there first thing as soon as it opened because he wanted to make sure that they got in for that because it said limited tickets.
When he did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we got there at the same
time. Did you do it? Did you do that?
I didn't, and I'll tell you why. Because,
of what he said?
My cousin's boyfriend, who was with us as well, he went over to find... No, it was David. It was my cousin. He went over to find out what was going on. Because we didn't know what that was. We didn't know that was part of the Star Wars thing because it was in another room.
Yeah, well, it was in the other part of it.
And so we came over. He said, well, I want to go find out what this is. So we went, and he found out that was the Millennium Falcon simulator. There's a short film, and then there's a scene where you actually feel like you're flying in the Millennium Falcon, which would have been kind of cool. Except for, he said, it only seats 5 people, and it's a 5-minute film. And the line was, wrapped around the backside of it. So if 5 people at a time, we figured there was probably about 100 people in line. We were looking at more than an hour waiting in that line. So we were like,
and it was an additional cost.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Well, it's only like $3.
It was like $3,
which is not bad.
If there was no line, I'd go up and pay that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was the thing, as Dave said, that they spent 25 minutes in line. Waiting for it, and then he said it was 4 minutes, and he said, if there's a line, no, it's not worth it. So that was kind of Dave's impression of it, and based on that, we were like, we don't need to pay for that.
Yeah. So
now, if there hadn't been a line, I totally would have gone and ran. I would have run up front, bought a ticket, and run all the way back to the back of the thing. I want to ride the Millennium Falcon, but to stand in line to ride it,
no, I thought the same thing. So we passed that. We surpassed that. But
did you guys get to do the planetarium?
We did. We did the planetarium.
We didn't get to do that.
We
one.
missed the show.
We missed it by 11 minutes.
Well, if you stuck around, there was another one. And because
that was the last one at 3:30.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed so you missed the show we were in. So that's what we were in when you guys went out and did putt-putt then. Okay, so we were right about the same time there because when we came back in, I thought you guys had already done planetarium and we're finishing putt-putt. That's why I thought you guys had gotten there before us. And so, of course, obviously you didn't.
Yeah.
What did you do for lunch?
What did I do for lunch? Went to Dog and Shake.
Guess what we had?
What did you have?
Fazoli's.
Good idea. My family doesn't like Fazoli's. So we went to Dog and Shake. Yeah.
That's why it was the greatest weekend ever. Because
I
totally
went to Fazoli's
been,
and my stomach was feeling weird that morning and I wasn't hungry.
Yeah, what a shame that
Did
was.
it cure you?
I ate some and I did feel a little better afterwards.
Oh, there you
but
go.
Sarah and I shared a meal and it worked out.
And I had considered that, but all the people I was with, they weren't fans.
It was the greatest day ever because it started with Fazoli's, and then there was Star Wars, and there was Batman in IMAX, and it was like, this doesn't get any better.
So yeah, because then you guys went on later that night to the Warren and saw Batman in IMAX.
In fact, we left from the Imagination Place to
and we
the
went
theater.
drove straight over, and it's a good thing we did.
Have you guys waited in line for about an hour?
We got there an hour and a half early, and I wanted to make sure that we were at least an hour early.
We got into the theater a half an hour early. and the line wrapped clear out the building.
An hour and a half beforehand, we were already in line on the other side of the building from where the IMAX was, and people that arrived after us were out the door and in the parking lot. And
that's good.
I mean, it was
But
insane.
there was plenty of seating still. So, and because some of our group showed up later because they had to work, and so they went back to the back of the line, and they were still able to join us for seats. I mean, so it wasn't a big deal.
It's because I held them.
That's true. We did hold
did.
them, but we didn't have to hold them for very long.
I did hold seats. I'm not ashamed to admit it, and I used your line on it because I had a guy that wanted to give me some lip. He says, "Hey, are those reserved?" I said, "Yes, they are." And he kind of looked around at this immensely packed, crowded, sold-out IMAX theater, and he goes, "Really?" I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, when you arrive an hour and a half before the film starts, you're allowed to do that. They're at the concession stand." And there was a couple sitting next to me, and they kind of, the guy walked off, and they looked at him, and they looked at me, and she goes, "Maybe we should go to the concession stand. I think he can cover this." And I looked, I said, I got this. You got something you need to go do? I'm here. But
It's been my deal. You start, the closer to showtime that you get there, you start to lose rights.
Yes,
as a
absolutely.
moviegoer. You start to lose rights. Holly and I went today because we had to work out a sitter. So my parents watched the kids this afternoon. We went this afternoon, and we got there an hour ahead of time because I was afraid. And there was only like 9 people there.
Oh, really?
And so we went in, and we of course the other movie was still on because they've booked this one closed because there's a lot of showings of it.
Oh yeah.
And so we waited out in the hall, but they had the little like rope anticipating, and we finally, some more people walked. Actually, there was only 5 people when we got there. We were 6 and 7. And then 3 more walked up behind us, and when we saw them come behind us, we decided to move down, because we were sitting in the benches in the middle. We decided to move down and actually
Get in.
board a
Yeah,
formula line, which the other people didn't. So there was just 2 guys ahead of us then, so we were 4th in line. We're like, hey, all right. By the time the movie got over and they cleaned the theater, the line was all the way down that hallway. We were in 14. It was all the way down to where they take the tickets.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so we were like, okay, good thing we got here early. And of course, as we walked in, I said, we're going to sit. I said, we come an hour early to sit on the outside seats because I'm an outside seat guy. I've got a small bladder. I have to get up and use the bathroom. I didn't today, but a lot of times I have to get. And my least favorite thing is crawling across people during a movie. Unfortunately, when you're at the end, people crawl across you, but that's a whole other thing. But I like to be able to get up and leave if I have to. However, what happens then is they come in and they do that stupid, everybody move to the center, and my line has always been, if you give me grief, I got here an hour early in order to sit where I want to, and I'm not moving for anybody, because that's what it is. I come an hour and a half. Most people come an hour and a half early to sit in the center. I come an hour and a half early to sit, halfway up on the side, because I want to sit not on the outsides like in the old theaters, but in the ones we've got. You know, the end seats. That's my thing. I won that right, being the first.
That's right. Anyway, you said that, and I thought about it, and I was like, yes. By God, that is what happens.
You start losing rights the closer to film time you get.
So,
and I tell you, when they come in there and they say, move over so that everybody can sit together. If you brought 7 people to a movie theater at 5 minutes before opening weekend of a Batman film, then you're all sitting away from each other because you're going to go find the individual seats.
You don't deserve it.
Here's part of the problem, and I'd set this up. I coordinated groups with the Clontarf group on the phones and the Facebook group, and trying to get everybody to, this is what we're doing. If you're interested, let me know. And nobody replied, nobody did anything, and then kind of sort of people started sending in some RSVP stuff because I was trying to coordinate rides and everything. And I had one friend who was Gene. He was ready. He's all kinds of pumped. He wants to go to the Star Wars thing. He wants to go to dinner. He wants to go to Batman. He's ready, and he's all kinds of hyped. And then I look on Facebook, and Keith's having a very nice conversation with him, and I'm sorry that you got stuck in the middle of that.
Well,
where
he
Gene
just said
is going,
something, and I was like, I'll go check real quick.
Where Gene's going, so where do I get my tickets at? This is Friday. And we were like, what? You don't have tickets yet? Well, no. Facepalm. What? I mean, and now, admittedly, Gene's fairly new to Facebook. He's not the most tech-savvy guy out there, but dude, the opening weekend in IMAX of Batman, and you didn't buy your ticket early?
In a town you don't live in.
Yeah. I mean,
even if it weren't opening weekend in IMAX, and it was just a town I didn't live in, I would reserve tickets to make sure I wasn't going there for nothing.
So he did.
I reserved tickets for a Sunday afternoon show earlier in this week.
Yeah.
And Sunday shows don't typically sell out, but there's always that chance with the opening weekend
Yes.
of Batman.
Well, they did some checking and found out that, of course, our showing was the 6:30 was sold out. The 2 something earlier was sold out. And he was
Which-
like, "Well, I'll get tickets for the 10." And I'm like, "Okay, how is that going to affect your ride?" Because initially he was planning on riding down with us, and he's like, "Do you have tickets?" I'm like, "Yes." we're going. That's why if you look on the Facebook post, it says we're going to the 6:30. Get your ticket now. That was what was posted, and so I felt horrible. He eventually wound up bailing. He just decided I'll make another trip of it some other time,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
felt horrible because he was so high. I mean, he was the guy. Every post on this thing was, "When are we going? Are we excited? You know, we're doing that." And we're corresponding. We're excited. We're this, that, and but he just didn't get his ticket ordered. So then Brent shows up Saturday morning. We're all coordinating. We're getting ready to leave, and I'm looking at Brent going, "I feel so bad. Gene couldn't make it. He didn't do this, and then he didn't get his ticket." And I'm thinking, man, how come? What kind of? Who would you have to be to not get a ticket? And Brent looks at me and goes, "Well, I don't have a ticket yet." And I looked at him, I went, "What?" I mean, I had a nervous breakdown. I would so Brent spent the first hour of the drive down to Wichita on the phone trying to get a hold of the theater. And I have to admit, we poked a little fun at Brent, and I said, "On the bright side, you are just like Arnold Schwarzenegger." And he says, "Why?" And I said, "Because you thought you could go out on Christmas Eve and get a Turbo Man doll."
So did Brent get a ticket?
He
Not
called
for the IMAX.
He called. He got a hold of the office, and of course, they weren't open. And then they finally, we'll
'Cause it
call
was
you back
too early
'cause it
in
was
the
busy.
morning.
And I mean, so he finally got the call back. He's like, "Yeah, do you happen to have any tickets for the IMAX presentation?" And we could hear the guy on the phone laughing, going, "Wait a minute, Bob, this guy wants a ticket to an IMAX Batman." And no, they didn't have any. So what he wound up doing is he bought a 7:00 show ticket for a non-IMAX screening. And then got there of Batman and got there at the theater with the rest of us. So we're in line an hour and a half early for our show. He's in line 2 hours early and was first. He went and sat in the front of the thing at the podium and pulled out his phone and played games for 2 hours. And we just waited for him after the movie ended. I felt so bad that he
But
didn't
only
get
for
to
another
see
half
it.
hour. So
Yeah,
that
well,
was,
even less.
Well, not
because
even
it's
that, because
shorter.
IMAX is longer.
oh, that's right. Yeah, you guys got the longer movie. So.
But yeah, I felt so bad. So lesson for everyone: if you're coordinating any kind of group event, you're going to a movie, and it's an opening weekend in another
your
city,
tickets
and it's
early.
Batman.
You're in charge of
Order
getting
your
your
tickets early. Okay, enough of that.
I think
Well-
Sarah got ours like 2 weeks ago.
Quickly. Was everything?
Fantastic end to the trilogy.
Not as good as Dark Knight, just as good, if not better, than Batman Begins, and agreed. It's probably the best trilogy ender out there.
I think best encompassed trilogy of any films out
Yes.
there. I didn't like the very, very ending. We won't go into that too much. But a great end to the franchise. Not as good as Dark Knight, but just because it was almost a little too epic for itself. But it was great.
It was
fantastic.
epic.
Yeah,
It was very, very
fantastic.
epic.
Too grand, but good.
So that was our week, and now I'm going to Colorado.
In about 3 hours,
In
so we
about
got to
3
get this podcast over with. So let's move on to news. Because there was nothing else.
They're really, yeah. No,
That's all we did.
That's all we did. This
Caitlin and I
weekend.
rode bikes tonight.
I had a lazy Sunday.
There you go.
I'm going to play disc golf in the mountains.
Ooh, fun.
Both places we're staying, Estes Park, Frisco, both have disc golf courses.
Why are you
Nice.
going to Colorado? You want to tell everybody?
Why am I going to Colorado? Because I like Colorado.
It's vacation, right?
Oh, it's a vacation.
Yeah. You're going on holiday.
Spain was booked.
Going on holiday.
You're going on holiday.
I'm going on holiday.
People might wonder why you were going to Colorado.
Nothing related to anything else that unfortunately happened in Colorado this week. And you remember Raph? Mm-hmm. I didn't realize Raph and his wife moved to Miami after they left here, and then they moved to Colorado. I didn't realize they moved to Aurora.
Oh.
And Raph was at that movie theater
Oh, my goodness.
earlier in the day.
Wow.
And they have a little girl now. And Renee had commented, she said, "Thank God, because if we didn't have the child, we probably would have been at the midnight showing that night."
Wow.
So it was kind of a very much near miss.
We should say our thoughts, prayers, meditations, whatever, good vibes,
Yeah.
positive vibes, go out to those people and their family and the victims. And
It just... I'm not going to get into that.
Tragedy.
Yeah.
It's just tragedy.
But no, it has nothing to do with that. Just we've kind of been, peripherally looking at different places to go and try and take a vacation, and this was the week that wound up being available. And Colorado is kind of the outer limit of the day trip that you can plan.
Which they just had
for us.
That's true, because it's an 8-hour drive from here, 8.5-hour drive from here.
About 9 to where we're going.
Okay.
Sorry,
yeah,
we're making New Orleans a day trip.
Sadly, you're headed into the state that just had a very obviously bad tragedy and just finished burning.
Yeah,
most of the states
still on
burned.
fire,
They've got them all out, but most of the states charred now. So anyway, not a good week or not a good few months for Colorado.
Yeah, but so we're going to go and we're going to go play some disc golf and have a good time in the mountains and kind of decompress and relax. And I'm ready.
Well, if you lose a disc in the mountains, it's gone. So take some extras.
Maybe I should buy some.
All right, now let's move on to news.
Moving on to news, really the only big thing that we saw on Friday, Batman opened. But you know what else opened? Friday marked the official opening of the Doctor Who experience in Cardiff Bay. And they had a special ceremony and monsters and all kinds of stuff. And apparently there's a full review online through the DoctorWhoNews.net group, which we won't go into, but obviously we're excited, and now Cardiff is on our list of vacation paradise spots that we're going to have to go to at some
That's
point.
right, before that silly thing closes.
But that's it as far as news goes. There really hasn't been much else.
All right. If there has, somebody will point it out to us.
Oh, I'm sure.
Let's move on to
Doctor Who's still not on.
We still don't have a date.
We still don't have an official date, which is...
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming soon. I bet in the next 2 weeks.
It's got to be
we
the
know.
25th. But
I bet in the next 2 weeks we know for certain. I bet by the
the 1st of August.
The Beeb will let us know.
I'm thinking by the end of August we'll know.
Well, yeah, I should hope. I should hope. Well, watch BBC America, because they usually spill the beans before the BBC.
That's true. Honestly, because when I posted schedule news on the website last night, and I was looking on the BBC site, and I didn't even think about that. You're right. I should have been checking BBC America. They probably have it posted.
That's what you do. That's what they did last year. All right. Well, let's move on to feedback while Sean double checks.
First up, Chrissy.
Hi, Chrissy.
Her email subject is...
It's not what I wrote down in my notes, but okay.
That's what I said.
No,
you
you said
show notes.
You said Phil first and then Chrissy.
Do you remember what I said?
Don't ask Sean. He had a stroke once. Sorry. Too soon?
No, and accurate. Where am I?
First up is Chrissy.
Chrissy. And the subject of her email is, don't you remember? We built this forbidden city. Dear Vortex boys.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. Before you launch into that, you missed out.
I was there for half.
You fell asleep, or
No.
you went to bed. Whatever
I
you
particularly
did.
went to bed. I didn't fall asleep in the middle. I apologize to the Friday Night Who crowd. I stayed
Didn't
home
even
to
say goodnight.
I knew I was getting up early on Saturday morning and traveling to Wichita, which you guys did too, but I think you guys left a little later than I did. And I knew I was leaving. So what I did is I thought, you know what, I wasn't going to watch it all. I was just going to do it this weekend. And I was sitting there and I was still awake, and I thought, maybe I'll watch a little bit of this with the guys. So I did. I logged on and I said my highs and chatted for a while. And then I just sat there, and after the first 2 episodes, I was like, this isn't the most exciting of stories. It's not going to really keep me awake for another hour. So I thought, I'll just go to bed. So I just kind of snuck off.
Oh,
went to bed.
If you check your email box, we totally made fun of you.
Oh, did
went to
you?
bed.
I watched I looked at the Twitter stream the next day, and it said, "Sweet dreams, Glenn. Good night."
Oh, okay. About 30 minutes after we'd heard the last tweet from you, I sent out, well, Vortex Glenn is now asleep.
Yeah, that was the first one. That was the
Midway
first one,
through
so.
episode 3, I think.
Yeah. So, no, I didn't fall asleep during it. I purposefully turned it off and went to bed, and then finished watching the rest of it today.
What kind of Whovian are you purposely turning it off and going to bed?
I have
It was outstanding.
responsibilities.
It was so much fun. We laughed so hard when we got into the fourth part of that thing.
Well, that's the thing is it was a very well obviously we'll do the review, but I could tell that it was a Friday Night Who ripe episode.
Oh, yes.
is what it was, because we'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it.
Anyway.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So-
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Chrissy says, Dear Vortex boys, so I'm sitting here listening to the podcast, and you three start your end of the podcast good night everyone thing. I glance at my iTunes, And I see there are still 3 minutes left. And I'm wondering, are you going to play your theme tune for 3 minutes straight? And then Sean does his little Casey Kasem intro. And it's all downhill from there. I guess it's my fault, too, since I brought it up. If I don't want my pigtails pulled, I shouldn't poke the bear, or something like that.
They made me do it, Chrissy. They twisted my arm.
Anyway, in answer to Sean's question, yes, Back to the Future 3 was partially filmed in Monument Valley near Moab, Utah.
I think it's Moab.
Moab? That sounds worse to me. That sounds less right to me than Moab. But okay. Moab, Utah, which is where The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon were filmed also. Or as well. Sadly, the drive-in theater with the Indians where Marty drives the DeLorean back to 1885 was just a set they'd built for filming and was taken down later.
That's too bad.
This was extremely disappointing to me as a kid because whenever I'd go down to southern Utah, I'd look for the drive-in theater with the Indians and I never found it.
I went to Wichita looking for that donut shop in Mars Attacks. It's not there.
Reviews! Death to the Daleks. Alternately titled The Daleks and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. This was quite the change from the typical Dalek stories. Even more impressive that Terry Nation wrote it, and it was so different from what he'd written in the past. The Daleks aren't out for conquest or revenge when the Doctor meets up with them. They're just one of many groups who'd run into some bad luck. Their power's gone, their weapons don't work. They have to work with the Doctor and the people from the Marine Space Corps. They probably would rather have shoved iron pikes into their eye stalks. For once, the Daleks aren't the main focus in a Dalek story. Along with the Marine Space Corps, there are also the Excelons to contend with, both the High Priests and the Outcasts that look like skeletal Sontarans. But I did like the puzzles the Doctor had to solve there toward the end. But the best part was the Daleks having to solve them as well. It was kind of nice that they had to do something more complex than scream exterminate and shoot things, even though that's more or less how they solved the checkerboard hopscotch puzzle. I actually got a nice laugh out of that one. Oh, and effect. And the effect.
You weren't the only one. We died. The thing, and Keith got a little excited. He's like, ooh, because he knew this was coming, right? And the thing rolls through, it gets electrocuted, and we're like, that was awesome. And the second Dalek goes, blam, 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 and shoots the floor up.
At least now I know where they got the inspiration for some of the Revenge of the Cybermen bits. There was the entire Electric 4 section in that one.
And the Five Doctors.
I remember
That
the
too.
Five Doctors. I didn't remember.
Wasn't it Revenge of the Cybermen and the Cybermen couldn't get through?
I think you're thinking Five Doctors.
Five Doctors?
Because he's
Am
playing
I?
hopscotch, and the
Yeah.
answer is easy as pie. And then the Cybermen come in, led by the Master.
Okay, maybe that is what I'm thinking of. I
Five
don't know
Doctors.
why I thought it was Revenge.
I don't know either.
It couldn't possibly be Five
totally
Doctors.
did not
It's
remember
got Cybermen
Revenge
in
of the
it,
Cybermen.
therefore it must have Cybermen in the title.
But it was definitely in the Five Doctors.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Regardless, it was kind of cool to see where that inspiration came from.
Yeah.
The Apocalypse Element. I had some technical issues with this story, so I'm not entirely sure what to say about it. I could barely hear some of the characters' voices, so I'd turn up the volume. But then another character would start talking loud, or the Daleks would start shooting, and I have to turn it back down again. There were some parts I just couldn't hear very well, so I missed some key moments, like when the Doctor changed all the doors on Gallifrey to only be opened with Evelyn's retina scan, or when someone said Romana had been a slave to the Daleks for 20 years. Anyway, that's just technical stuff, but it got in the way of me understanding and enjoying the story. However, did anyone else feel like Evelyn was kind of shoved aside in the story?
A little bit.
Yes.
Still
A little
some
bit.
moments, but yeah.
Yes, I know they're back on Gallifrey, and it's the return of Romana, and there are bigger things to focus on, but
Hey,
I
they
kind of
actually
felt
let her
bad for
into
Evelyn
the,
because of that.
They actually let her into the Citadel, so
Well, only the second human?
yeah.
That's all she said about Apocalypse Element. So
Oh, okay. So, can I stop you there
Yes.
then? Did anybody else have the audio problems?
I did not.
I did.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
Maybe because
more
I was listening
Not,
with earbuds.
not as bad as her.
Not as bad as that. Specifically, the gain on the Daleks seemed to be really out of whack
Yes.
when there were multiple Daleks
Yes.
and they all started screaming at
They're
the same
always
time.
loud for me.
And every time a gun went off,
and
or
every time a gun or
explosions.
explosion
yes,
went off.
it was way, way, way overmodulated, or not overmodulated. Just I continually were upping and down my audio.
Same problem.
Yeah. Now I
didn't
I
notice
fortunately
it.
didn't miss any lines, but it just I completely I was running the volume knob every time the Daleks would come on scene because they were either screaming or shooting.
I want to say I went to the volume knob for like the action bits, just because action's always louder than dialogue.
So I never have that problem with any other audio play. The action's just as good. I mean, just as even as
As
the
level?
Yeah, as the.
So maybe
others.
I did. I just didn't notice it.
So
as much.
I told Chrissy, I totally had the same problem. I didn't end up missing any dialogue, but I had the same problem when I was riding the volume switch.
She finishes out her feedback with The Mutant Phase. At last, a fifth Dr. Big Finish story that actually is pretty good. It seems like Big Finish writers have gotten their timey-wimey plot lines worked out. At least much better from the last Fifth Doctor story you reviewed.
Amen.
I do like the Doctor's explanation at the end, that paradoxes don't make sense because they're paradoxes. When I start thinking about the ins and outs and whys and wherefores of the timeline and can't get my head wrapped around it, that's an explanation I can accept. Granted, there's a lot you can put up with from a story involving time travel. Also, Nyssa in this story is just wonderful. I love how she and the Doctor just bounce off each other and their scientific explanations, and she even gives the Doctor pause when he thinks that she's been repairing the time circuits. But she's actually working on the audio alert system so they know when they're about to crash into something. My favorite thing about Nyssa is that she really tries to understand the Doctor's explanation, where other companions just smile and nod at the Doctor's ramblings. The pair of them are really on equal footing here, and that's something that I love about these two. And we don't have to hear some blather about mathematically excellence every other minute to know that Nyssa can hold her own intellectually with the Doctor.
Right.
Oh! And let me welcome you to the North America division of the People Who Live Places Where the Doctor Has Landed Club. Even if the Kansas sheriff that Nyssa and the Doctor found sounded more like he was from Alabama, we are a small but proud contingency.
Yeah, ever so briefly.
Which that was a great thrill for me, honestly. Just
Really? The fact that they landed in Kansas?
I didn't. That was the
I
last.
squeed. Not
That,
gonna lie.
that was the last thing I ever expected for Doctor Who to ever step its foot in Kansas.
Huh.
And
I wasn't as I don't know. It was interesting. It was a nice
cool.
name drop, but I didn't get as excited over it.
I think
Maybe I should have.
on this story, there's something else I got a bit more excited about,
Yeah.
but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. Okay.
I would agree with Chrissy that sometimes the timey-wimey plot lines are confusing. Like going into this story thinking, okay,
Well-
this is before the apocalypse elements, and before the 8th Doctor adventure I've heard, and before the 7th Doctor Dalek story we've reviewed, but for the Daleks it's later.
Yeah.
It's so hard to wrap your brain around that
Right.
for the Doctor it's before, but for the Daleks it's after.
Where actually
Whoa.
Sean, fortunately, has done as well, which they did in the line as well. But so it's not hard to do. Sorry, Sean, I give you too much credit. Anyway, but what we're
Where
doing,
am I?
we're doing a River Song thing where we're
It's from the Dalek point of view.
but we're actually on the Dalek's point of view. Is
Yes.
the progression of, and it clearly is leading us up to events in. Dalek Empire. If you guys don't see that, I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, it feels like
I think there are
a
elements that
setup,
they pull,
yes,
but
it
it's
feels
not a
like
full setup.
It feels like a setup, though. To me, it feels like we're establishing some little things in the Doctor's universe that are going to play in later in Dalek Empire. Not necessarily these are grand plots that are being set up, but you really feel like they're building
little
to
nuggets,
something,
yeah.
setting up the basically the new galaxy. Where they set up having what was the
genocide
Yeah,
machine.
the genocide machine. I mean, it just all feels like power grabs for the Daleks to set up their big war. Is what it feels like.
Yeah.
It does. Well, that's it for Chrissy's feedback.
All right.
Up next, Dr. Phil sent in some audio.
Let's take a listen.
Hey, Dr. Phil reporting in from Newark, Delaware. Just wanting to say a few words on the apocalypse element before you guys embark on your review of it. A couple things that are really neat, in addition to the fact that we have Lala Ward reprising her role of Romana 2, I love Evelyn's performance in the story. There's a few little interesting tidbits to look out for. When the story moves to Gallifrey, spoilers, that when you listen to any time a door opens, it is a treated version of Dick Mills' sound effects for the television version of Hitchhiker's Guide from the early 80s. So keep an ear out for that. Also, when the temporal projections over Gallifrey, I should say when they're removed, you have the same sound effect, also again treated a bit with some other processing and such, but you can tell it's the sound of the bird of prey decloaking from Star Trek 3. And that one's a little more subtle, but that is in episode, I believe, 3, near the beginning. So keep an ear out for that. And I think it's interesting about the music that Nick Briggs did for the Apocalypse element, because I was giving it a lot of thought, because this is one of the first Big Finish discs I got, given as a gift, probably in the early 2000s. So let's just say it's gotten a lot of listening. That the score to it has a lot in common, kind of timbre-wise and such, with Malcolm Clark's score to Resurrection of the Daleks. And you might want to have a listen or a view of that episode, just to compare. So anyway, keep up the great work, guys. Sorry, I'm just kind of getting in a quick bit of feedback before our Gamba Society conclave gets going today. So anyway, you guys take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks
thank
as
you,
always,
Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Yeah.
Sean?
yeah, that guy, Sean.
Hi, how you doing?
The buzz from the phone threw me off.
Do we need to go back and reintroduce ourselves?
The buzz from the phone threw me off for a second. For a minute, I was like, do I check and see if that's my phone? And then I saw you grabbing yours, and my whole brain just went... Sean pointed out, or mentioned when we were listening to that off mic, that he recognized the decloaking of the bird of prey.
I
Is it the
did.
bird of prey?
The bird of prey, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The that's a really horrible impression of a bird of prey decloaking, but I did pick up that one. I didn't recognize the modulated doors.
I noticed the doors. I recognized the doors.
I noticed the doors being an interesting sound. I wouldn't have, until he said it. I would not have keyed into the fact that they were the same sound as the Hitchhiker's Guide television series. So
I thought the doors sounded familiar, but I didn't know what from. I figured it was doors from previous Who stories on Gallifrey. I didn't realize they were Hitchhikers.
So
because I've never watched the show.
Thanks for pointing it out, Phil. That
Definitely.
was interesting stuff.
And good luck with your whatever that is.
Wherever you, why,
You're
whatever reason you're not in Illinois.
You're in Newark. There's something going on. I assume it's musical related. Good luck with that.
It's probably over by now, so hopefully it went well. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Yes.
All right. Shall we move on to our review of these 3 stories?
Yes.
This is our Dalek
5th Dalek Archive.
Archive number 5.
Dalek Archive number 5.
There's a lot of Daleks.
We should get Billy D to record that.
Dalek Archive. I can't say. I can't talk tonight.
Dalek Archive number 5.
There you go. Thanks, Billy D.
Some suave Billy D.
Billy D. Billy D. Sorry.
Death to the Daleks. A power failure in the TARDIS draws it off course, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith end up stranded on the bleak planet of Exelon. They soon meet members of an Earth expedition on a similar situation. The humans are searching for a rare mineral, but first they must find out what is draining their power and avoid what's inside another grounded spaceship, the Doctor's oldest enemies, the Daleks. Dun, dun, dun!
Really?
Oh, I love this one.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Have you seen this one before?
Yes.
You had. Okay.
I had seen it before and owned the book. I actually owned the Target novelization of this one, and I owned it on VHS, and now I own it on DVD.
This was one of the ones that my library had, and I think if I remember, I had like a Dalek blowing up on the front cover or
Yes,
something.
there's always been whatever
like that.
version of this that's ever been released.
Oh my gosh, I didn't notice that.
It's a slightly different
bought the
explosion,
same thing.
but it's always
I'll be
featured a
darned,
Dalek
yeah.
blowing up on the cover.
So I totally
Well, that's
remember.
'cause
I don't think I
they
ever
kill
checked it
several
out.
Daleks
Yeah,
in
we
this
did kill them.
story.
They do. I never checked it out though. So this was my first viewing of this. I hadn't seen this one.
Really?
Mine
Yeah,
too.
hadn't seen this.
Shut up, Keith.
There's a handful of them out there, Sean, and every once in a while we hit them.
It
It
seems to be
about
pertwee.
being all excited to buy it. I thought for sure you had seen that.
Just because it's a Dalek story. I love the Daleks, good or bad.
Despite the
Now,
fact that this
Day,
humbles the
I have
Daleks
seen
so
Day,
much.
but I had never seen.
I
this
see, I
one.
don't know that
And
I've seen Day.
I had forgotten that this would have been Sarah Jane's first encounter with the Daleks.
And this is Third Doctor's last encounter. Because 2 stories later, he regenerates.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Very sad.
Sad.
So, okay, so I want to start with Glenn. What did you think? Your first viewing. We don't get to do Glenn's
No,
first
we don't.
viewing.
You really
We
don't
really
much
don't.
Very
because
many.
it was my first viewing. Not the best Dalek story out there.
We're disinterested in Glenn's opinion. Keith, what did you think?
It's not a Dalek story. That's the thing.
I love the Doctor in this. I love Sarah Jane in this. I felt that the relationship has come along here. They're working together very well. They've got this great rapport together. It's fantastic. I think where this falls down, the human crew that they come across, the Earth crew that they come across, really an interesting dynamic there. I like the characters that they develop there, what they're doing here, why they're here, what's going on. I love that. I like the old guy that's ends up becoming the leader because the one guy's
The Scots.
been injured. Yeah, the Scot has been injured so badly. So I like that team.
And then steals it.
And then
because
the
he was
Daleks
gonna-
come rolling out. The scourge of the galaxy. And they come out and they do their little egg beater things and go. And suddenly I realized, without a gun, the Daleks stink.
They're useless. They can't even sucker anybody to death.
At that point, I was like, wow, I don't know if I like the Daleks anymore. No, really, it just they were so, and they kept getting blown up, and things kept happening to them. They weren't even the best looking Daleks. The tops were wobbly. I
don't see why this is called Death to the Daleks.
this is a Terry Nation
they killed a
story
bunch
too.
of them.
I guess.
That's what's bizarre about this. Anyway,
Honestly,
so-
that's one of the things I liked about this was it's so humbling for the Daleks.
But I can get over all of the bad things about the Daleks, with the exception of every time a Dalek comes on the screen, do we really have to get the
the musical score.
like the Daleks were the comedic relief or something?
They
in
almost
this.
were.
But they're not supposed to be, even if they come across that way. What was the deal with that music?
Carrie Blyton and the London Symphonic Orchestra. He's a British composer and writer.
It was some oboe.
Are you
Just
ready for
every
this?
time.
If you don't know who Carrie Blyton is, he's a British composer best known for his song Bananas in Pajamas.
Bananas in pajamas, we're coming down the stairs.
He also did the
Bananas
music
in pajamas.
for Doctor Who and the Silurians
See, but it wasn't bad. Now.
and Revenge of the
No,
Cybermen.
that was the one that had all the.
That's the one we thought it was phones constantly.
Yeah,
Someone answer that phone.
ringing.
At least it wasn't clownish.
That's what it was. It was like circus elephants or something when the Daleks would roll in, and you knew when they were coming because even before you saw them, the music started. That
I
was
did not like the music.
horrible.
The music was absolutely horrible.
The music did not fit the
Gosh.
serial at all.
It's not a horrible. It's not horrible. The route, I think, is what they called it. Was something less to be desired. I mean, I like
Did
the
you
fact that the
recognize
city.
it?
Yeah, it looked like the one from the Crotons the week before.
Recycle some plot.
Which I think is funny that 2 weeks in a row,
They get the same.
the resolution is, yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's the one you're. That's
yeah,
that's the book.
That's the one. Yeah. 2 weeks in a row, though, the resolution of the story we're watching is the city or the spaceship melting.
I wonder
It's
if-
interesting. So
I wonder if
not
they
only
had a
do
lot
we get the
in-
route twice, we get the melting cities. And,
Well, I
and
wonder if that played
shit.
into it with Two Entertain's decision to release these two
Together.
Oh,
together.
Maybe so.
That maybe they thought,
so.
hey, you know what? I'll bet some astute
part of that-
podcasters will point out that the same root and the same melting effect is used in both of these stories. We should release them together on
It could
DVD.
be the tie together. I like the fact that this city is essentially become a entity of its own. I like the fact that you've got the two divided groups. I can't remember what was the name of the species that's on the planet.
The Exilians.
You've got the one group that basically worship the city because, well, they fear it, but it's become a god to them.
Yes.
Then you've got the others that recognize that the city is just evil and they're just set to destroy it. I love that. What a great problem. Yes, I think it's a trope that's happened before. I don't have any examples, but it's a borrowed idea. I think
Rivaling factions
Yeah.
against one god.
right,
Yeah.
borrowed idea though, and so. But I like that.
Borrowed
I thought it
from
was
reality,
cool.
even.
It was very neat. I like the fact that the Daleks come up with the scheme of blowing up the beacon in order to get off the planet.
In typical Dalek
Yes,
fashion.
exactly.
Yes.
Just blow
The
it up.
doctor's going to... How do we get... Let's go explore the city and see what we can find out. Okay, what are the doctors going to do? Blow it up.
The other thing that this thing... I like the idea of the Doctor and... What's the one guy's name? The one first creepy guy that they comes across.
First creepy guy.
He was creepy looking. The Exilian.
Bilal? Goddle.
What was it? Say it again. Say it the second time.
Where's it up here?
Goddle?
Goddle?
I think
Bilal?
that. No, it's the B. It's the B one.
Bilal?
Bilal, I think, was the
Bilal.
one that went with the Doctor into the city, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
Oh, the Renegade.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Bilal,
one
yeah.
that goes into the city. Okay, they go in. I love the idea of going to the heart of this thing to shut it down, essentially shut the city down. That's the Doctor's plan. I like the idea of a labyrinth of puzzles in order to get to the center and trials and tribulations. I love that idea. A map that my 8th grade daughter just finished on her kids'
8th grade or 8-year-old?
8-year-old. I say 8th grade.
You said 8th
Sorry,
grade
my
daughter.
4th grade
That's why I'm
daughter.
like,
My
wait a
4th
minute.
grade daughter
What year?
just finished on the back of her kids' meal mat at Steak and Shake tonight. Is on the wall of this thing.
But how are the Daleks going to do that with
Well,
their
then
pleasure?
that's what makes it even worse is they don't show us the Daleks doing it because how did they do it with their big old
We joked
plunger?
about it on Friday Night Heroes. Like, what's going to happen when they get in there? We'll get a cut scene of that door opening, and they'll roll into the next chamber.
So, okay, that's fine. What was the second one that they had to do? That wasn't the floor. It was the.
Well, the floor was first.
No,
the map
no,
was
no,
second.
no. The floor was
first one was
third.
tracing
Oh,
the
the letter.
First
the
one was
letter
to
on
get
the
in outside. Yes.
Then there was the map.
Which one
Or
of
the
these
maze.
one of these things is not like the other? Okay, come on. If you look at those symbols, it was pretty clear which symbol wasn't like the other ones.
But admittedly, I would have pushed it.
It was
I wouldn't
third
have traced
grade.
it.
Well, no, okay, but it was third grade logic.
A lot of this was.
What was the third room?
I think the third one was...
That wasn't the one where we tried to kill him, was it? No, that was the
No,
fourth.
that was. I think the third one was the floor.
I want to say
Okay, maybe it was the floor then. Okay, so
So I
we
want to say
go
there were
in,
only 4 rooms, weren't there?
and worst cliffhanger ever.
Don't touch the floor.
No, it wasn't even that. It was like, wait, stop. I was like, what the heck? We don't even know what the impending danger was. At least leave us with some anticipation that the Doctor's in peril or something. No, wait, stop. What the hell? So that was terrible. Why did it? Well, who decided that was a good idea? I wish somebody would have stepped forward and a little bolt would have flew down or something.
That would have been something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Give me a real cliffhanger. All right, so the floor, cool idea. I like it. I have seen it before in the Five Doctors. Didn't realize that I reversed where the inspiration had come from, but
You viewed it like me.
yeah. So, but that was cool. I like the idea of taking the sonic screwdriver and figuring out where which that's not really a puzzle if you're using a cheat to me, but okay. There needed to be some sort of logic thing. It works in the Five Doctors because it's the pi configuration. It's
Right.
The master figures out that you use pi in order to
And that's a legit
traverse
puzzle.
across. Yeah, it's a legit puzzle. But using your sonic screwdriver to find the parts that aren't buzzing, essentially don't have electric current, that's cheating. But I'm okay with that. That was fine. And I thought the same thing. I thought, well, when the Daleks aren't even going to be able to figure that, they're just going to roll right across that. They won't even see it. And then the one goes across, and then the second one goes, pew, 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 shoots a floor into that. Wow, well, that's totally Dalek right there.
And the
Then
fact
he
that
rolls across, and the other ones, the suit absorbed all that. It was fine. The outer casing, was
7,000
they both
volts
could have
of
rolled through it.
electricity.
Yeah. and the fact that the Daleks were able to retrofit their guns to actual projectiles.
That was cool. I like that.
I
I
liked
was
that
fine with
aspect.
that.
That was pretty cool.
Very clever. Very clever. I love that. All right. So, and that was the other thing, is somebody brought up on Friday night, if there's no power on this,
How are they even
How are
moving
they
or are they
moving?
even alive?
Yeah. So
It's like there's a Cyberman lands. Power is taken out of everything.
They fixed that, though. You did hear the answer to that.
I don't remember.
I think it's the Doctor says that they move by
psychonetic
energy or something like that. So basically, they're powering themselves as far as moving. It's just their weapons and things like that are powered by.
Which, quite honestly, something needed to have been said about that a long time ago.
Well,
because we established in the
I
Daleks
get the impression
that it's the floor that they've got. The
floor gives them the energy
because it's.
And then when they invade
like static
Earth, they
electricity
have
or
created the portable dishes on their back that gives them the.
But then after that, the whole issue just kind of dropped. They
Now,
just show up,
we don't know that it hasn't been addressed in the missing episodes.
Well, I suppose that's
However,
true.
I have listened to Power of the Daleks, and it's not addressed in there. So, in fact, they have to, if I remember right, they have to be repowered in order to be. Yeah, they require that. That's actually contradictory.
They have to be charged.
They do. They require
to be
power.
plugged in.
Well, they do. In fact, it's called. That's why it's Power of the Daleks, because this group that comes across this ship. We'll get into the review of this. I didn't want to do this, but they come across a ship. They have to end up powering the Daleks back up because they don't know what they are, what's going on, and the Daleks are actually It's kind of almost a Victory of the Daleks thing where there's this ruse of, we're going to be your servants, we're going to help you because you've helped us, given us power. The Doctor recognizes what they really are. Anyway, so
gotcha.
In fact, I think they borrowed a lot of that idea from Power of the Daleks. Now that I've heard that. Anyway, so that being said, that actually fixed it for me by saying that one line of how they were powered was okay. But then we get into the next two, and I do like the one where it causes the one guy, what do we call him, Bala. He turns on the Doctor, and the Doctor has to, convince him that it's just a mind trick or whatever. And then the third one, the weird psychedelic, which I figured out that all of the Doctor's era was just somebody liked to do the really cool flashy lights, psychedelic looks, because we get that in the Axons, we get that in the, I think Carnival Monsters has a scene like that. Maybe it wasn't Carnival, something else. Anyway, there was another one that we've reviewed that does that. So, okay, it was getting more difficult for the Doctor, but they were less puzzly as we went along, and so that was a little discouraging. But getting to the center of the city, disabling the city, that was great. I like Sarah Jane's idea Sarah Jane, I loved her in this.
Oh, so good.
She spends a lot of time running and getting captured, and she ends up becoming almost the sacrifice for the one claim to the city.
And that's just the first two episodes.
Yeah, exactly. But I absolutely love the fact that she
because the
comes
Doctor doesn't follow his own first rule.
Yeah,
he wanders off.
Right. Well, no, yeah, exactly. Which is fine, because I like the fact that he trusts Sarah enough to separate her from her later on and tell her to go make sure that the Earth people get on this rocket ship as soon as the power is cut to get off the planet. I love that he trusts her enough and realizes that she's competent enough to be able to do something like that. I love the fact that Sarah comes. Is it Valenium? What were they mining? Where they were collecting. I want to say Valenium, but I don't think that was right. Perineum. Okay. The fact that they've got to get the perineum on the ship, but they wouldn't recognize that the bags were missing. So she gets the other bag, Jill get the other bags so they can fill those with just anything, so that they'll end up on the Dalek ship, and the what was it again? Perineum will end up on the correct ship. I love that. What a good, very, very clever, very good, Sarah Jane. I love that. So overall, I enjoy the story. It just the third episode really falls down, and the Daleks, they're such a disappointment for me in this. So glad I own it because it's a Dalek story, but glad I've seen it. But it definitely doesn't rank up there as high on my Daleks stories list.
This is one of the stories that it didn't have to be Daleks. Could have been anybody that came out of that ship. Any menacing threat could have came out of that ship.
Yes and no, but I'll tell you what it did do, Keith, though, being the Daleks, is you have that moment of, oh, no, here come the Daleks. and then this is the first time we see the Daleks
powerless
and reliant on somebody, not just
and that's
not just
one of my favorite
turning
things about
somebody
this
into a
story.
slave because there's certain things that they have to have their slaves do, but having to rely on cooperating with another species. It's not all about total domination at that
Yes.
point. And that was an interesting turn. I
and
appreciate
it's probably
that idea.
the greatest reveal.
That is a great
Right.
reveal.
Well, maybe not as good as the one crawling out of the water.
No, the one coming. Chrissy said that. She said best Dalek reveal ever was
With them coming off the ship.
them coming
wasn't
off
it?
the ship. Yeah, that was what she said.
Well, because that was the cliffhanger moment when the ship lands, and it's like, well, that's not an Earth ship, and then the door opens, and they just start pouring
right,
out.
they just start pouring it. That's
and
right.
It's like,
and she said that, and I thought, yeah, it was. It was one of those moments, although I knew who it was going to be because of the title. But it was just, that would have been very cool. That would have been, seeing it for the first time, still does not top that Dalek coming up out of the water.
no, I agree. That's still the best one.
At
This
least
is the
the
second
Daleks
best
Invasion
one.
Earth.
Yeah.
Yes, second best.
This is the second best reveal. But
And the fact that the Daleks are so humble and needing help, I love that aspect to them and that exploration of the character, which we even we even go into in Mutant Phase.
Yes, but
Mutant Phase is obviously better written.
it was a perceived humble. It was a fake
It was a perceived,
humble.
yeah. But it's still, they come out, exterminate, and nothing. They're impotent. Yeah.
All right. What do you guys think? I've talked long enough.
I found this story very enjoyable. It may not be the best Dalek story, and it may not
certainly different.
It definitely, that's what I like about this. It's such a different Dalek story. It's not your standard Dalek story, and that's one of the things I've complained about over and over is that all the Dalek stories are the same thing, just in a different location. This is so different; it makes it much more enjoyable for me.
And I'm convinced that George Lucas got the sand people from these guys.
Oh, I know.
In fact, we kept calling them Tusken Raiders.
Them. Yeah,
there's a lot of
they'll
stuff
come back in greater numbers.
that possibly could come from this episode. When you look at we joke about the Tusken Raiders, but that's totally what these guys look like running around in the desert quarry with their rags on. And then the Earth crew forces, Chrissy pointed it out, the insignia that they're wearing on their emblem looks a lot like a Starfleet arrowhead from Star Trek. It's just sideways.
Although that was
Although
been
that would
borrowed.
be backwards.
Well, because I think it's a meld because the first Star Trek emblems were just the triangle from
Right.
the original series.
And then later
This
they had the
is
circle around
this
them.
is a triangle outside with a circle behind it, and then
That's
later
how they avoided
the circle
copyright
with
issues.
well,
In this.
yeah.
But
But I think putting the circle
putting the
behind
circle around it.
there's the original. But
Well,
putting
yeah.
the circle behind it, I think, would have negated the copyright issues in the first place. But they turned it sideways to be different enough. I think is what
Yes.
they did.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a copyright thing. I think it was
Well, we got to make this.
we got to
different.
make it look different enough.
But then the Jill, her insignia is different. Her insignia was not an arrowhead. Her insignia was something else, which looked very much like a Ferengi.
Yeah, I thought the
logo.
same thing. Yep, you're
And
exactly
Which
right.
would have been
Which obviously preceded that.
So you wonder how much everybody else was borrowing
yeah, I
from
definitely think
this
so.
particular story.
And then obviously we've got the electrified floor that shows up later in the
which
fifth, the five
in
doctors.
fact, Doctor Who borrows again from.
I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff that.
The more I talk about this, the better it is. It really is. Because I watched through it, and I thought, okay. And we had a lot of fun with it that first night, and then I got to that fourth episode, and it was. But I don't know. I like it better now.
The working title for this story was the Exelons.
Huh?
I think that would have been a better title
I think that
because you expect more from
I think the
Death to the
production.
Daleks.
I think the production crew knew that the Daleks were such a popular thing that they had to get the titles in the.
Well, and at this point,
The name and the title.
I imagine that we've done blah to the Daleks, this to the Daleks, that to the Daleks. What else can we do to the Daleks? Death to the Daleks.
Yeah. Well, because we've had
Because that'll sound dramatic. And
Power, Evil, Planet, Day. It was Day. Yeah, Day. That we've had all those up until now.
and even
And Frontier Space. Oh wait,
Dalek Master Plan.
hey, that didn't have Dalek title. Guess what? Didn't have much Daleks in the story either. Yeah, Daleks Master Plan, Dalek Invasion Earth, the Daleks.
Yeah,
Although the
although
Daleks was
when that
never
wasn't-
called the Daleks.
yeah.
But
Which Dalek Master Plan wouldn't have been either, because Invasion of Earth wasn't. Was it?
Invasion Earth was.
It was.
No, it was not. Daleks Master Plan, by then they had
Okay.
stopped calling
Each episode.
Each episode. Well, they still titled them, but they were, yeah.
The interesting thing is, for me is that, and I touted this beforehand, as I told you guys, it's despite the fact that it's a quintessential Dalek episode. I mean, it really is a paint-by-numbers Dalek episode.
See, I think I'm with Keith. I don't think it is paint by numbers.
But
I
it
think
is.
It's,
we've got the Daleks on a planet X, we'll call it Planet X, involved in a mining operation.
Oh, that's true.
Taking prisoners and forcing people to do the mining for them.
Right. The whole reason they came to the planet was...
They get there. We get all of the standard trappings of a Dalek episode. We get the cries of exterminate and it's
well,
very,
those trappings are always going to be there. They're even in there in the next two stories we're going to review, which I don't think are.
Well, yeah,
traditional.
It's very much everything you've ever seen in a Dalek episode is in here. But yet they've also taken it and done it and twisted it on its side a little bit when they come pouring out of the ship and none of the guns work.
Agreed.
And even the Daleks,
I would agree with that.
I mean, the humans are kind of like, what just happened? And you see the guys, and I love it, the guys at the Daleks who's the eye stalks kind of look at each other like, what just happened? What just happened? I mean, they really are a little lost. And of course, we're laughing because without that effect, the thing
lame.
It's lame. It doesn't work at all. And then the Doctor strides over. Well, how are you?
Not so high and mighty without your weapons.
Because they've got whisks and plungers now.
Yeah, that's about it. So I love the city. I love Sarah Jane in this, and this is something that I felt bad tweeting because. Yes, all companions are hot. And here's Sarah Jane in a bathing suit. But because my childhood crush for her was so strong in that girl next door kind of way, I can't look at her that way. I can't look at Sarah Jane in the bathing suit and go, yeah, baby, you're hot.
Jill was hot.
Jill was definitely hot. But I think it's because I respect Sarah Jane so much. That sounds really weird. But she's such a good character. Yes, she's got a couple of
I think she's more
scream moments in this. She goes into the TARDIS, and I love that. I love everything with the power drain, that the ship loses everything. I'll go get the flashlight, and then the flashlight dies. I'll go get the emergency battery, and that dies. How about an oil lamp? Oh, that works. Okay. How do we get out?
What are you going to do, rub it?
Whisper G. Okay, how do we get out? Hand crank.
Yeah, that was
this was well thought out. I like this.
But that's one of those days that you wish you had the 10th Doctor, the 9th and 10th Doctor's one where it didn't have that interior door.
Yeah, that's true.
You just walk up and open it because it dies at one point in the Cyberman two-parter in the 10th Doctor's era, and they just open the door.
But I like that. I like the fact that they get out into the fog, and she's like, I'm not dressed for this, am I?
So she goes and changes.
Put some clothes on.
And again, smartest companion ever. Any other companion would have just been like, and then complained about it the entire time.
What are we going to wear to explore the planet? Well, I would recommend shorts and high heels. No, she puts on a jacket and boots. And it's like, you rock.
Oh, and she accessorizes, though. She uses the ensemble she has beneath.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She has a coat.
She puts the coat on her, pulls the scarf
she's
out.
smart and practical.
For all the stuff that's been made fun of Sarah Jane's wardrobe and the Andy Poundy outfits, it's like, but you know what? It was practical for running through corridors. Right. You can't deny that. I think to your point, Keith, about any menace that came out of the ship, it's yes and no. I think it could have been anything. I like the fact that it's the Daleks because it puts them in that different situation of, well, now what? And here we are. We've landed. We're powerless. We're going to make an alliance with the humans. We're not happy about it, but we're going to do it. And what's the first thing we do? Let's go put machine guns on our arms. Okay. We can now menace things again.
And that's when it becomes more standard quo Dalek story.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
Is once they get the projectile weapon.
We have to be able to blow things up in order to be...
Otherwise, we're useless.
We are back to the status quo at that point. But again, that's what makes a Dalek story, too. So I like being able to explore some differences, but I like some of the same as well.
We laughed very hard when the Root catches the poor Tusken Raider on fire. Even though he's standing in the middle of a pond.
Just get under the water.
Just lay down.
But no, it's more dramatic to stand there in the middle of the water on fire.
It was a great effect, though.
It was.
Wonderful. Know how much they paid that stunt, man.
Well, and then of the Daleks' deaths, They drowned the Dalek, too.
Look at the Dalek deaths that we get. We get one Dalek that's attacked by, and I'm sorry, this is a this is a total Ewok moment here, because these guys come at him with sticks and rocks and pound on him,
And bows and arrows.
and he blows up. It's like, wait,
How did that explosion even happen?
what just happened here? Then we get one that we push off a cliff and into the water, and it drowns. And then the one in the tunnel that the root blows up when it's chasing the doctor.
And the doctor's commenting on, good shot. Nicely done. Great blow.
Solid hit, sir. Solid hit. So we lose one there, and then we electrify one. Unfortunately, it doesn't blow up, but it was still cool, you know. And then the Daleks are panicking from the antibodies from the city. These lumbering mummy monsters, whatever they are, come out, and the Daleks are like, ah! I don't know. This totally ranks as one of those. Yes, I will freely admit, I look at this one through the rose-colored glasses of nostalgia. Because, again, I owned the book to this, I owned the VHS to this, I watched this story over and over, and I'll be honest, I think this was probably the first Third Doctor story I'd ever seen.
Oh, really?
And it may have been one of the first Doctor Who episodes ever. It ranked very, very early up there for me. And so having that connection...
Well, as close to Tom Baker as it is, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Having that connection to... Oh, and it's in a rock quarry. That's the other thing.
And we see a nice variation of a rock quarry. The little caverns, or not caverns, but little pathways and stuff.
Well, and I like
a
the
nice
fact that
use
this is
of a rock quarry instead of a
is
giant open space.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's actually more
rocks,
sand pit than rocks. I thought that was really cool.
And the rocks aren't just background; they're actually
one becomes
props.
A trap.
Yeah.
Not very well done.
Which and Chrissy tweeted, "Well, how was it possible that? What good is that trap?" And I had to point out that if he didn't figure it out, he would have been standing underneath it and the rock would have fell on him, as opposed to him setting it off and running away.
Right.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know. I like the fact that we've got the Doctor in his black velour, velvet outfit.
The worst thing to get against it is sand.
And there's sand everywhere, and it's sticking to him. And this is a gritty episode. I like that kind of feel to it. So there's just a lot here that
we get a lot of outdoors shots.
A lot less studio.
Probably about even with studio shots.
Now, there are a couple of interesting notes that I have discovered here. The production code for this is XXX. Doesn't mean anything, but I thought that was
Sean just likes
only you would notice.
Only me would like that. I was very disappointed when the Doctor's tricking the supercomputer that not once does he order, I reversed the polarity. I kept waiting for it, and it didn't come.
Well, that's one of those misnomers that we've talked about
it's
the
not
Third
there.
Doctor.
This is the last time we see the TARDIS control room until Planet of Evil, which we haven't reviewed yet. So we don't get to see it in the last two adventures with Sarah Jane, which is true because they arrive on Peladon next, and it's just them walking out of the TARDIS, so we don't get any interior TARDIS. And then he regenerates, and the TARDIS is out all the way through all of the Tom Baker stuff.
We don't see it in Robot. We don't see it.
All through the first season.
They get the one test flight to the moon to Nerva, but then they're out of commission because they're bouncing around the time ring and everything. So the TARDIS console room is out of commission for a good chunk of
and TARDIS
that ring, which I didn't realize that it wasn't around.
Yeah,
that's right. Planet of Evil was well into Sarah Jane's run with Tom Baker, so that surprised me. The other thing I didn't know is that. This was... Where did it go? Episode 1 of this story was missing.
We see the TARDIS. We just don't see the interior.
We don't see the interior.
We don't see it come out.
Right.
They disembark
after
from it
Robot.
frequently.
Right.
Yeah.
Until what's the one after Robot?
Ark in Space.
Ark in Space. We see the TARDIS in Ark in Space.
Yeah, and
but we
dematerializes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're time ring through the rest of the season.
We time ring
all the way until
Revenge of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
So, episode 1 of this story was missing from the BBC archives, which I did not know.
Yeah.
And they did not. What was it? There was one NTSC recording recovered from an overseas television. A low-quality PAL recording was recovered.
Which PAL is what they use overseas.
Yeah.
And then in 1992, they found a better quality 625 PAL recording from a shipment of episodes returned from Dubai.
Right.
And that kind of flew me, too, because being that this is one of those that I remember and I've watched and I've seen, 92 still seems fairly recent. I mean, maybe not. That was 20 years ago, but that seems like, wow, 92. So that kind of really threw me with that. But I don't know. Like I said, this is one that it's not a great story. I agree with you guys. All the little criticisms and things that you can harp on it. But it's just
enjoyable.
It's an enjoyable watch. It's a lot of fun for me.
All right, let's move on.
Unless anybody else has anything else to say about it.
I think that's a good final word.
All right, then.
The Apocalypse Elements. When the planet Architrex is threatened by a Dalek assault squad, the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn become embroiled in an ever-deepening mystery. What has become of President Romana, missing for 20 years? What lurks in the vast gravity wells of Architrex? What is the secret of the ancient elements the Daleks are synthesizing? And how does Gallifrey feature in their plans? The Doctor finds that his oldest enemies cannot conquer the universe. The Doctor finds that if his oldest enemies cannot conquer the universe, they will watch it go up in flames.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's it?
It was a little weak, yeah.
What?
Oof.
Week?
I thought so.
Oh, my gosh.
I really enjoyed this one.
I did, too. I immensely enjoyed this one. Sean, you start this time.
Yeah, really.
This is the second time I've gotten into this story, and I think part of the problem for me lies in episode 1. There's a lot going on.
You feel lost through most of it.
And you do. You feel lost through most of it. And all of the setup that we're given in episode 1 doesn't really go anywhere. It's all designed just to get to the point where the Daleks can get to Gallifrey and start blowing stuff up. And the war really, kind of kicks in. And then the second half of the story, which is the war, feels very much like, okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, Gallifrey under siege, that's cool. But it's so much Dalek screaming and weapons fire that there's really not much going on there. I felt...
Well, the Daleks don't get very far either.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first appearance of Romana since she left E-Space. Or since she was stranded in E-Space, basically, stayed behind. And there's no ceremony. There's no pomp, no circumstance, no...
But she's already back, and
she's already back.
president.
She's already president, and she's been missing for 20 years.
So that tells me there's a story in between there.
Well, I would have thought so, but there isn't. This is the first appearance of Romana since E-Space. I mean, I thought for sure, I'm doing this out of order. We missed something when I set up the schedule, and it bugged me. And I looked and looked and looked, and it wasn't there, which is why it's officially on the schedule now. Because I was listening to this is one of the last ones that I'd started listening to, and then decided that I was getting so far out I'd never remember them when we came back to review them. I felt really kind of surprised at that. It was like, well, it almost didn't feel like there was a reason to bring Romana back at that point. We do have the return of Vansel, which you'd asked me, didn't Vansel show up? And I had to go back and look that he was in Sirens at the time. And it wasn't until I read that I remembered him.
And I remembered Vansel from Zagreus more than Sirens at the time.
But of course, you've listened to
I listened to Eighth Doctor, so that's later on.
But just we've already got him coming back. We've got a kind of sort of pseudo-president already there.
Previous president that's had to take back up the mantle because Romana's missing.
But, I mean, it felt like she became an unnecessary character, really, which is unfortunate because I love Romana. I love All Ward's portrayal of Romana.
Other than rescuing her. Other than a reason to rescue somebody.
And I mean,
that's what it came down to.
We've got a really great setup with this planet that's gone missing. The whole planet's disappeared, and Romana's on it. No, we're not going to talk about any of that. The planet showed back up. We've rescued Romana. The planet crashed into this other planet, and off we go to Gallifrey to start the war. Okay. I loved Evelyn. I loved that this is really Evelyn's first, because we skipped. We went to Blood Tide and then came back to this one knowing that the Dalek segment was going to be in here. Right. And listening to it, I don't feel like we did her a disservice necessarily by skipping this one and going on, even though most of her stories are kind of chronologically set. But this is really her first alien. All of the rest of her, well, not counting the Silurians, because, again, they're Earthbound, but this is her first otherworldly experience, because all the rest of her stories have been, period pieces. Right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, she meets the Silurians, but it's
that's later.
a period
It's later.
piece. Oh, yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
This is her first off-world experience.
Well,
isn't it?
because she was in. See, I shouldn't have brought this up because I know I'm going to get confused. But she did the Tutor.
I should have brought the book.
You should have brought. Yeah, where's the book? She did the Tutor one, and then Spectre of Lanyon Moore. That's the other one I was missing with Brigadier. But that's, again, I mean, yeah, that was an alien, but it's Earth-based. So this is really her first time. And what does she get? She gets this conference of time entities. And aren't you an interesting color? And she's so full of great stuff, and it's awesome. And then she kind of gets shoved to the wayside because, Romana's back. I was like, oh, well, okay. But then, I don't know, it's like one too many companions. It felt a little weird to me. Now, I liked the fact that as we got on, and we get to Gallifrey, and once again, the Time Lords in their infinite wisdom. Let's run everything optically and put retina scans on every door in the Citadel. Okay. Let's carve that guy's eye out and use it. Okay. It's like, well, what do we do now? And so changing it to Evelyn's retina pattern so that she's the only one. She's the only human on Gallifrey at this point, although we don't know where Leela's at. That was kind of dropped too, but yeah,
I do. She's there somewhere.
She's there somewhere fighting the Daleks, but we don't get to see it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
that's who they should have brought in instead of Romana was Leela. That makes more sense.
I'd like to see Leela go up against a Dalek because she didn't get a Dalek story.
That's true.
I mean, I understand she does later in the new Tom Baker Big Finishes that are coming out. Yeah, but
I know she comes back in Big Finish.
Yeah, she's in the Tom Baker.
But
even with a different doctor in Big Finish.
You're skipping ahead. You're not allowed to do that. So anyway, I don't know. I just don't know. There was just something off-putting about it. I thought it was definitely a better written story for Stephen Cole than
yes. That's
the head and shoulders above the last one that we did. But it just didn't. It still didn't quite gel for me. There were a lot of nice little things that I liked, and I liked them a lot. I loved the fact that they, like I said, that they put her retina pattern in there, and that was an attempt to kind of justify anything you can do to retcon that. I'm okay with.
Harmony on the TARDIS and Doctor Who the movie.
I thought that was really cool and very well done, but. The Daleks, okay, once again, we've got, they took over this planet that disappeared, and what do we got? A mining operation, and we're forcing people to mine something. Okay, what is it? An element. What does it do? It sets the universe on fire.
Why?
Okay, how does that work? I mean, it's very much ultimate super weapon, but we're not going to explain it. And
I got the impression, and maybe I was reading more into this, but I got the impression that the Daleks were having to engineer it to do that for them. Yeah. Because they had Romana. Romana had to build the stabilizer or whatever it was for it as well.
She had to piece it together.
So it was like it was a raw element that maybe had to be designed to do that. So I didn't have a problem with that. It's not like this element, if the planet exploded, was going to just continue to catch on fire.
It's just a doomsday weapon. That's kind of what it boils down to.
I was fine with that.
Well, maybe I was
totally
wanting
for the Daleks.
But I was wanting a little more science to it. Maybe. I mean, Davros has the reality bomb, which destroys the electron that holds matter. Okay, I gotcha. He killed the Higgs particle and everything went away. But
that's genius.
Little tiny stabbing motions with a knife to kill the Higgs particle. But what does it do? Everything catches on fire.
It burns,
but it keeps burning and burning and burning and burning.
Did anybody else kind of picture the Genesis wave from Wrath of Khan? When they started describing it?
Yes.
Okay, but I'm fine with that because it gave me a visual to go with it. But it just, I don't know. There just wasn't really enough of a hook there for me. And I don't mind Doomsday weapons. I love Doomsday weapons, but I wanted a little bit more.
I love the fact that that they actually detonate the thing and it burns out an entire galaxy, and they have to hold it in stasis in order to.
And then they have to again team up with the Time Lords to try to stop it.
because in typical Dalek fashion, we didn't think that through too well.
We don't know how to stop it.
It's moving faster than
but the Daleks...
Well, they knew how to stop it.
The Daleks' idea first was to take over Gallifrey so that they had a way to control it. They were going to use their technology in order to control it and hold it in stasis. But
No, and
it all sort of backfired on everybody. Yeah.
I liked the end. I liked the way that the
That's
Dalek
the
lets you know.
part of
Oh
it.
well, you know what?
That's
We're
the
going to
best
take over
part
that
of it.
entire galaxy. We're poised to invade, and now there's nobody to stop us over there.
We've got our own galaxy
That
now.
was a
Yeah.
huge holy
I love
crap
that,
moment,
yeah.
and
I love
that
that.
really did elevate a lot of the story.
More than anything, this story felt like the first volley of the Time Warp.
That's what I thought. That's entirely
More
what I
than
thought.
Genesis. More than anything else
Yeah.
we've seen.
No.
This is the
That's
first
what I
volley.
thought.
Genesis is a skirmish beforehand. This is
Yes.
definitely the
Yeah,
first.
This is it.
This is the, hey, I don't like you.
Yeah.
This is the punch in the face.
Yeah. You talked bad about my mama before, but now we're going to punch you in the face.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
I was looking, and maybe one of our readers, maybe Phil has I think admitted that he hasn't read a lot of the novels as well. I'm hoping that I was hoping Romana's story, maybe the reason why they did what they did in this is that Romana's story from E-Space to Presidency has been explored in the novels, and they felt like they didn't want to.
I saw somewhere that there was a story set before this
See, that's
for
what,
Romana.
that's I hope that they respectfully said we don't want to really destroy any of the continuity in the novels, and that's why they did it in such a way.
According to the wiki article,
Happy endings.
This is the first official appearance of Romana in production since she left the Fourth Doctor and stayed in E-Space. Later novels established that she returned to normal space, as well as returning to Gallifrey, where she eventually became president of the High Council.
So I'm
it was the
entirely
50th
fine
book.
with that, and reason
But
being is because
later novels. So that indicates
So they-
that this came first,
later
and somebody
than
else
this?
went and filled
They
in.
Oh no!
retconned it.
I really okay.
That's the way
when
I
you
read
read that,
this.
it made me think later novels from the Fourth Doctor's era.
Okay. Hold on.
Because
Well,
you said
it
Virgin
just-
New
it-
Adventures, didn't you?
No,
or
it
did
just
you
says
not?
later novels established that she
no.
returned. So I read that as
96
it happened
Yeah,
after.
96
Is when
would have
the
been
book
before this.
came
Yeah.
out. This
And
was
this was
2000.
2000. Yeah.
So-
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Well,
So
that's,
I
okay.
was-
That's better then.
I was
Yes.
giving them the benefit of the doubt based on the fact that I don't know enough about the novels, and I'm just now starting to get into those. And so I was hoping that the reason we didn't get that is exhibition is because I sort of think they didn't explain or maybe give us a fallback to what it was for those people that might not necessarily.
It would have been nice if
count.
the Doctor had had a line of dialogue going, well, when did that happen?
Yeah,
Instead of
exactly.
just musing, oh, well, she got out of E-Space and now she's president.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well-
But I do like the fact that they've respected the fact that
It
there
should-
is some
there-
continuity that has happened here, and
But-
we're going to respect that.
Right.
But there should have been a line because, at least according to the TARDIS Wikia, the story that deals with all of that or talks about that is a Seventh Doctor story.
Well, but again, we've
Well,
established
But this
that-
is 6.
But we
No. Whoa. But Romana says you've changed. Or no, she says you're in the wrong body, and he says right body, wrong order.
Yeah,
so
that's
that
true.
that totally fixes that because I thought. No, that because when he said it, I thought, no, that's still the right order. This is 6. This would be after 4. But now knowing that she's met him then
but
again
she
in a
skipped
7th
5,
Doctor.
so-
Well, yeah, but she
wouldn't know that.
she said new body, so she's thinking maybe this is the next one after 7. He's saying wrong order, right? Right body,
Yeah,
wrong
but,
order.
But how would he know that? He wouldn't know that.
well,
Well,
that's a good
he's
point.
going off of memory, assuming, because he remembers 4 and 5.
Oh, okay.
So he knows
All
that he
right,
didn't
there's
meet her
that.
after that.
Yeah,
this is
there
his
you go.
first time.
That's
so-
right. This is his first
that
time.
will let me- okay.
And she, okay.
I don't know. My brain hurts.
You know,
River Song.
That is irrelevant. I didn't have a problem with that. I was excited to hear Lala Ward.
I was too.
Being Romana again, and so that was enough for me. I love the fact. I love the way she reacts to. She's dealt with being prisoner for 20 years. Now that's a drop in the hat for Time Lord if you really think
still.
about it.
But that puts enough darkness in her
Yeah,
too.
I thought that was fantastic. It really, in fact, it grew Romana as a character for me, just knowing she had that past.
Yeah.
And so I really like that. I like the things that she. I mean, the line that I love from Romana the best was when she's tempted about traveling with the Doctor again. She says to travel again, to open a door and not know what lay on the other side. She's
That's a great
so
line.
Yeah.
you can tell she
misses it.
misses that. She misses traveling with the Doctor. She misses doing those things, and that was such a wonderful line.
Which we always assume every companion does.
Yes. But you actually get to hear it.
Yeah,
this time.
that's
that
what's
was what was
great.
cool.
And this would be the first time we would hear a former companion expressing that. Because Sarah expresses that later in
She
New,
does. She
in
does.
New Who, but this is before that. So
I agree with Chrissy that Evelyn is very underused in this. However, I love Evelyn so much. She has the best lines. And the only thing that I felt was a little out of character is when she says, she tells the Doctor that she might have Stockbridge syndrome, and he says, "You mean Stockholm syndrome?" I don't think she would have. I think that was I read somewhere that Stockbridge is actually a reference to something else in Doctor Who that Evelyn wouldn't have known, but Evelyn's what is she? She's
contemporary.
Yeah,
Contemporary for whatever time
what is
it
she?
was. but
She's a what does she do in her?
she's a professor.
Yeah.
History.
So exactly. So why would she not? Why would she
How would she
mistake
get
Stockholm
wrong? Yeah,
Wrong.
that's a good point.
That would seem very out of character. That
Well,
she
as
would
soon
know
as-
what
as soon-
Stockholm
as-
syndrome was.
As soon as she started going there, it's like that, and my brain started going, oh yeah,
I always have trouble remembering
I couldn't
the
remember
phrase
the name
too.
of it either.
See, I
so-
knew it right away, and so when she goes,
I knew what she was talking
Stockbridge,
about. I just couldn't
that was
think
kind
of
of
what it was
just.
called.
It seemed like a dumb thing to say for somebody of her
Yeah,
knowledge.
I wrote that off because I couldn't remember it either.
Okay.
And
Anyway.
then he said Stockholm. I was like, oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
So-
just if somebody
it
else
was
had
stock
said it,
something.
I would have
Yeah.
bought it. But Evelyn, no. I thought she was history, but I couldn't remember for sure. No, the Doctor really feels very heroic in this one, and very. Sometimes the Sixth Doctor can be a little selfish. Mm-hmm. In this one, he was being very selfless, and I liked that.
This is some of the best Sixth Doctor I've heard or
because
seen.
he's not arrogant and he's not brainy in this, but he still comes across as the Sixth Doctor, and so that was a lot of fun. That was really good elements of this. I was the same way. I did find myself a bit confused from time to time, but I thought they did a really good job. As just to the point you were getting confused, they would catch you up.
Yes,
so I thought
I
that
agree
I thought that it was
completely.
the story was written in such a way that it was paced out really well. That once I felt like they were getting off track and I wasn't following it. It was almost like they took extra efforts to catch me back up, and I liked that because it kept that mystery building as we were going. As to what was going on, so I love that. That was a fantastic element of it. Something else that I wanted to touch on, and it has escaped me now. So Keith, if you want to jump in here and not help me, but talk about whatever things you liked about it.
I liked all the things that you guys have mentioned.
Thank you.
The Sixth and Evelyn, and then in the addition to Romana, their chemistry is fantastic
Yeah.
throughout all of this.
I think so too.
Even though Evelyn kind of gets relegated to the back burner, but she still has such a vital role. And then the fact that she's willing to stay behind with this Dalek in order for, was it Vansell at that point, to go on and complete whatever he needed to do,
Yeah.
I thought was such a great character moment for her.
Yes.
And just makes me like her even more.
I mean, she's seen now firsthand what these things are capable of.
Yes.
And yet she's willing to take the risk to protect other people and help the Doctor. I mean, that is huge for her.
Yeah. You remembered, Glenn.
I did. I remembered that I liked the fact that although this continuity guide points out the fact that they actually messed up and changed the name, but Reldath is the Reldath from Sirens of Time. He's the one that's with the president. In fact, I think Reldath is the first one that decides that he wants to. No, that's not who it is. Reldath. The name was so familiar when they kept saying it, and it harkens back to Sirens of Time. I can't remember the connection now. It's gone again. I don't remember what. There was a connection to Sirens of Time, and it had to do with him, and I can't remember what it was.
And I like
Other
Romana.
other than Vansel. There is Raldith.
Oh, Vansel, yeah.
There's a
Vansel was
Commander
also, yeah.
Raldith and Coordinator Vansel. And it's the same president from
Yeah,
Signs
the
of
president
Time.
was also the other one that was
Which, and knowing what comes later, their reactions, the Doctor and Romana's, it's Vansel.
That's what it was, Vansel, not Raldith. It was Vansel.
How much they dislike Vansel,
Right. Yeah.
I truly enjoy. Because he is not a likable
He's
character.
not a likable
He's
character.
not a likable
But yet
character.
he's there and he's necessary and does what has to be done.
Vansel's who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Was from Sires of Time. But
Well, Raldith was
the
too,
first
Commander.
one I killed. Yeah, but Vansel's the one that I
Oh,
keyed
wait,
on.
no. There was no Raldith in this one. This was Commander Vorna, which was a different... Okay, never mind. No, Captain... He's Captain... I'm spitting. He's Captain Raldith in Apocalypse Element. He was Commander or something. In
Okay,
Element.
all right. Well, no,
Okay.
but it's
He's been promoted.
Vansel that I was saying, and Vansel's the one that isn't he the one that suggests that they kill the
Yes.
fifth Doctor? Okay, that's
Yes.
what I was.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Yes.
Trying. In fact,
Okay.
we talked a little bit
I
about
think
that.
so.
I think at work. That's what I was thinking of, and I love the fact that character is tied in. And yeah, exactly. They still don't like. They still don't like him. He's not a likable character.
No.
Why hasn't this guy been replaced yet? I mean, I understand the CIA operates
Yeah.
on its own in a separate thing, but once you have made a blunder of this magnitude, that you let Daleks in the door to Gallifrey, and there was a siege situation, how come you weren't taken out back and flogged? I mean, really.
I thought of another thing I liked about this story. Strong female characters.
Yes, I was just about to
Romana,
mention...
even Evelyn and the other gal.
T starts with
Yeah,
T. Not
Trinket.
Trillion. Trinket.
Trinket.
Yes.
Strong
So good.
female characters.
Yes.
Very, very... And always missing... not always, but frequently missing from Doctor Who.
Yes.
Here they are in this.
Frequently-
and well
frequently missing from
done.
sci-fi in
Well
general,
done,
I
yes,
think.
absolutely. And well done characters.
Well done characters here. I don't know.
That's
The more
all
we
I
talk,
did.
the more we talk about this, the more I like it.
I really enjoy. This is one of the best Dalek stories I've listened
I have to agree, as far as audio is for certain.
Yes.
This is one of the best I've heard.
And it's better than some visual.
This is far and above that genocide machine.
See, I like Genocide
Genocide machine was okay, but
Which,
this
and we
is far
discussed at
above.
work. This is probably better than the Daleks in Manhattan two-parter.
Oh, definitely.
And
I'll give you that.
and
We
Victory
knew
of the
you would.
Daleks.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Even some classic. I can't remember which R of the Daleks it is,
It's
but
the Sixth Doctor one that I thought it was better than.
that could be.
What, you didn't like Davros's head in a jar?
No.
But regardless, one of the R's is not as good as this.
Better than Frontier in Space,
That's not a Dalek story.
but not better than Planet of the Daleks, for me.
What about Death?
I don't know. Now I like Death better. We've talked about it. I'm going to go home tonight and rewatch it. No. Definitely better than Death.
I liked it better than Cats. I'll watch it
I think it was
again
better
and
than
again.
Death. It's better than City. It's better than Destiny. It's not better than Genesis. It's not
No,
better
it's
than Daleks. It's not better than Invasion Earth. So, there we go.
Speaking of Invasion Earth, let's move on to the Mutant Phase.
Wait. I have some... No, I don't know. Just a little,
Go ahead.
Just little notes. An article by Russell T. Davies in the Doctor Who Annual 2006
Yes, you brought that up.
refers to the events of this story, the Etta Prime incident, as one of the opening skirmishes of the Time War.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Which is a very big thing. And then Dr. Phil, of course, would flog us unless we mentioned. The story also introduces the Monan Host, one of several temporal powers in the Doctor Who universe who possess time travel technology. The politics of the temporal powers play a major role in the Gallifrey audio series, which centers around Romana's presidency.
Looking
so you
forward
can
to
expect
that.
more of that coming.
Looking forward to that.
Okay, now go ahead.
Well, I do like the fact that they've set up this time treaty thing, this conference.
This UN of time travelers.
The CIA is kind of trying to use it to mark the people.
Let's see what we've got.
Yeah, let's see what societies
What can we
actually
learn?
have time travel and what. It's like, okay, we'll use this for like record building,
Well, I like how the Doctor gets on Vansel
but we're not
for that.
inviting the Daleks, even though they have their time tunnels.
The Doctor gets on Vansel for that. He goes, and you're using this to find, it's taken you 20 years and you've got to this point. And the President says, well, at least we can kind of get a clue as to, who might be involved.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, in defense of Ansel, he should have said, at least we'll be able to figure out who wasn't involved.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
I mean, that. What you got what? You got that? No, you couldn't have done this. I mean, cross them off the list. I mean, nope. Now, yeah, it shouldn't have taken...
Rudimentary, elementary.
It shouldn't have taken 20 years to get to this point, but that's the last I've ever defended.
I forgot about that as well. There were just little things about this I loved.
There was a lot of good to it. Okay, the Mutant Phase. In the 22nd century, the Daleks have occupied planet Earth. By the 43rd century, only a handful of humans survive. Still further into the distant future, Thal scientists must choose whether to betray his heritage or see the universe destroyed. When the Fifth Doctor and Nyssa find themselves trapped in this deadly chain of events, they must decide who their real enemies are. What is certain, however, is that no matter where the Doctor turns, his archenemies, the Daleks, will be waiting for him. What possibly could be worse than that? The Mutant Phase.
Done!
Yes!
All right.
Except for the ending.
Oh, no, that's awesome! That's the best part! Oh, no! Oh, no!
Keith, you go first this time.
I really enjoyed this story. Just the little nods to the fact that, they feel a bump, so they land. Oh, wait. We're in the Dalek invasion of Earth! And in Kansas! The Doctor's not going to run into himself here, but he's going to want to leave because it's that time frame.
You didn't just squeeze.
I think we just bumped into a dog.
Why is this? Wait, why are there a pair of legs sticking out from under the TARDIS? He's wearing checkered pants. Uh-oh. Is there a cane nearby? We need to leave now. You didn't squee at all when he said, we're to Kansas?
No, not to Kansas.
Really?
It was interesting. I perked up and I went, Kansas, nice nod. Nice name drop.
I always...
Kansas getting some props,
It so rarely gets props,
Yeah,
especially in UK-based stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that we were
it doesn't. I mean,
like the UK is so disdainful.
Superman grew up here, for crying out loud.
It's Superman.
We're known for two things.
Dorothy was from here.
Okay, that's
Dorothy, Superman. Okay, until Supernatural came around, there was hardly anything.
We are known for two things. We are known for Dorothy, and we are known for basketball, and that's pretty much it. The Superman thing, honestly, is a stretch. People have to remember
this is where the world
Smallville was
will
set in
end.
Kansas.
At least from 1980s perspective, this is where the world would end. So, no, the day after.
The day after.
They're going to launch a missile strike in the center of the United States.
Squeed in Supernatural when they revealed they're from Lawrence.
But they would.
I watched Jericho,
well, not now, but
just because it was set in Kansas.
We have very few nuclear weapons in this part of the...
It doesn't... Just an interesting side note. Forbes Field here in Topeka, which it used to be an active military Air Force base and is not anymore. It's a privately owned airfield. But it's one of 12...
Part of it's still
active.
It's one of 12 air bases in the United States that the runways are long enough to still handle B-52s. So should something hinky go on, we are still a nuclear target.
Actually, the only reason we're a nuclear target now is because we're the only runway that can handle landing Air Force One as well. And there are bunkers out there. Anyway.
It's just always cool to see Kansas referenced, regardless of the situation.
Well, you want to know what's really cool.
Kansas got some love.
Not just the Kansas got
It
some
would have been
love
cool
with the
to-
sheriff.
they
Even
got
though
a
he had this
name.
total Southern
He
Alabama
did have
accent.
a southern accent.
What's totally cool...
We all talk like that here.
We all talk like that here. You're strangers. We don't talk to strangers around here. We don't take kindly to strangers around here. We don't take kindly. Don't take kindly to strangers.
You have to have a
around
little
here.
bit of metallic sound to your voice.
Well,
too.
I'm not a Roboman. But so not only was that cool that it was in Kansas, what's cool is that we invented the Dalek killer thing, man. That plague.
Our wasp.
Oh, the mutant phase.
The mutant phase
Phase is from Kansas.
It's a Kansas pesticide.
Kansas wipes out the Daleks. You can thank us.
They should put that on billboards. People should drive into the state, and it should say, "Welcome to Kansas, home of the Dalek-killing mutant phase." I would put that on every billboard across this state. That's how cool
We
we
didn't
are.
kill him, though. We just mutated.
Well, we would have killed them eventually.
into something worse.
Hey, you give us a couple thousand years, we're bound to get something right.
Leave it to Kansas. leave it to Kansas to take something and make it worse.
Let's make Keith start this one.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. He had already had.
I already had, and we sidetracked.
Wow, Sean, you interrupted this week. That's unusual.
That happens from time to time.
But still, the fact that we get all the Dalek Invasion of Earth references, and then we leave, and then I totally knew
Although
that
it was 6 years before.
it was 6
the
years
first
before,
Doctor comes,
yeah. Because, and then there's the line of, I bet you had something to do with that. Which, obviously, yeah.
Right.
Maybe. Spoilers. and then they go off, and I know the Thals are behind bringing them to Skaro. And the fact that we return to Skaro, and the fact that the Daleks are, yet again, need help. And which, for me, out of order, I listened to this before I watched Death of the Daleks, so it kind of is another humbling story of the Daleks need the Doctor's help in fixing this. And the Doctor struggles with this
But
so
ultimately
much.
they don't.
They don't, but they think they do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They think
Just I keep remembering things.
they
Sorry.
think they need his help,
Right.
And
Well,
so they
the
quote
Emperor
unquote
never
recruit
needed
him.
his help. The Emperor, well, he did need his help,
did
but in
need
a
his help.
different way.
Well,
it
yes.
wasn't a saving grace. It was a starting the paradox. But
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Which, and some of me wonders how much the Emperor Dalek really knew that until the end.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't get revealed to that. The Doctor doesn't know that until the end.
Right.
I wonder how much the Dalek.
It's part of the mystery of
Emperor,
the story.
Yeah,
Sure. Well, no, I think the Emperor calculated this from the beginning.
that he was the reason.
Well, no, I don't think he was. He knew he was the reason in the way that he thought he was. He was going to he was using He was using the Doctor in order to go back and further the Dalek race in a different way, save them,
Yes.
but further them,
Yes.
so that they wouldn't go through this mutant phase, and they wouldn't evolve into something that was different and not what they So he thought he was using the Doctor to go back and essentially empower the Daleks to be.
Stronger.
Yeah, and continue on their path,
And that's what I liked about it was the fact that he was using the Doctor, but still needed the Doctor's help in order to do it. He couldn't have done it with anybody but the Doctor.
No, yeah, I suppose that's true, but
And the fact that the whole thing was because of the Emperor Dalek.
Yeah,
that
that was
paradox
cool.
was fantastic.
That was cool.
And then the Doctor's explanation of, well, it's a paradox. It's not supposed to make sense.
I love that whole conversation.
That's the wibbly wobbly timey wimey of classic
That
Who.
was so totally the Doctor, and the Doctor like going into total Doctor mode. That, well, I understand it. I just love that.
Which and he
I
hints
love
at the
when he
paradox
does that,
issues and was like, well, you won't get it.
Doesn't matter. I understand. I love that. I love when he cops that attitude. I shouldn't, but I do. I love when he does that.
Especially for 5.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's
You
totally,
expect it from
Other Doctors.
Right.
But for
4
Exactly.
or
6.
yeah. But for 5 to pull it is
10.
Yeah.
You expect it from those Doctors. You don't expect it from.
Which, and this, so far, the best 5th Doctor story we've listened to.
totally the best 5th Doctor story.
Of the ones we've reviewed.
Of the
ones
audio
we've reviewed.
reviews we've listened to, yes.
That's always a cravat with us.
Sorry,
That's all-
the best
cravat.
5th Doctor audio story is
Up
spare
till-
parts. But anyway, we'll get there.
Best 5th Doctor story up till now.
Cravat. What's the word I'm looking for? I've used it before and I keep losing it.
Caveat.
Thank you.
The cravat is the thing you wear
Yeah,
around your neck.
I keep doing that.
The
It's always a
caveat.
caveat with us, of the ones we've reviewed.
Yeah.
I'm planning. You know what we need to do for our 100? We're going to do the best. We're going to do a top 10. We're going to do what's your best Doctor Who episodes, and we're going to do a total top 10 list, and then it's going to be with a little asterisk that says
Of the ones we've reviewed. Which, when we get to 100, we'll still have quite a bit under our belt.
Oh yeah.
I love the fact that we get the Emperor Dalek in this one. I love the
And
fact.
the line that they have of, I see we both have had a facelift since we last met.
Yeah. I love the fact that we got, I'm going to go back here to Apocalypse Element, the Black Dalek.
Yes.
In that one, what's the Black Dalek? What was he first introduced in? What story? Daleks Invasion Earth.
Yeah. Okay,
And then we do a story following that, taking place during Daleks Invasion Earth. It was so cool. I was like, wow.
And
we're going back and we're actually using... We don't need Davros.
Yes.
I love that. We're going back to our old roots here.
And the black to the Emperor helps me think of this in Dalek storyline forward, as opposed to Doctor Out of Order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That helps ground that this is later in the Daleks timeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though, even back in Dalek Invasion, there is a Dalek Emperor. Because they make reference to him.
In the Dalek Invasion Earth?
And they say, I am your Emperor. No, in this story.
In this story.
In this story,
Yes.
they make reference to it.
I thought they made
To the fact that there is one.
The Black Dalek in Dalek Invasion Earth called home and mentioned something about the Emperor. Maybe not.
I don't remember that. I remember the Black Dalek was the one that was in charge.
He was the one that was in charge, but
That's the
I definitely got the impression watching that one that he was in charge on Earth, but that he still reported to somebody
that's
else.
probably true
So,
because let's see, the Emperor Dalek wasn't really officially revealed until one of the Troughton stories.
well, one of the Troughton stories.
But then they
Evil, I believe
they
it was.
retconned it in the fact that the Emperor Dalek is the one that sent all of these Daleks to Earth and hatched this plan on Earth. I love that aspect of it. All of the retconning in this is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
and there's a lot of
And
it.
there's
fits,
a lot of it.
and it
Yeah.
fits really
Yeah.
well. It's not a
They worked it
retconning
in
that
really
doesn't
well.
work. It's perfect.
No, I would agree.
And maybe retcon's not the right word. Maybe it's just tying in. I mean, however
Well,
you
yeah.
want to say that. But
Explaining or filling in the holes.
there's a lot of it, and it's very well done.
And Nyssa is really good in this story. We complained last week that Nyssa wasn't what we wanted. And this is more of the Nyssa that we've seen near the end of her run.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the story that we watched that we were like, well, that should have been more of... That Nyssa was mostly on her own
We
and
liked her
shined.
in Maud When Undead, and we liked her in Terminus.
Yeah,
which
those
is
two.
her last one.
I think Terminus is the one that I'm thinking of. That this is more of that resilience on her own character that has the potential, but the other companions held down.
Yeah.
And this really lets her shine, unlike the last story.
Yeah.
Unlike Land of the Dead.
Yeah, no, and I love the fact that this, and I think Chrissy pointed this out too, that it puts the Doctor and Nyssa on this fantastic relationship where it's not exactly equal footing, but she's very beneficial to the Doctor, Doctor's very beneficial to her, and they have this fantastic level relationship. I like that. I like the fact that she's, and she's fixing the circuits on the TARDIS in this one as well.
Well, and he's chastising her. Oh, don't do that.
Yeah.
Which the Fifth Doctor seems to do.
Don't fix
Don't
that.
touch the TARDIS.
The Fifth Doctor seems to
shouldn't be
do that
fixed.
a lot. There's a lot of moments of, well, can't we do this? No.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, he's like the worst husband in the world. He's got this massive honey-do list that Nyssa keeps nagging him about. When are you going to clean out the gutters? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do this? And he's like, the football's on. I'll get to it later. He just doesn't want to do it. Nyssa was so good in this one, and it just...
And what I almost didn't like about their relationship is the fact of it's so strange seeing a Doctor not willing to try to explain the paradox situation that they're in and the gravity of whatever the situation is that they're in. That seemed very undoctor to me.
That I was okay with that because through the whole story I was under the impression that Nyssa was the cause of the paradox. That something with and quite honestly I was a little
because of the sting.
I towed the line where I was disappointed because I felt like it was way telegraphed that the sting with this wasp was going to be the huge reveal of it's an insectoid race with the Dalek. Well, guess what? I mean, come on. But then it wasn't. And so then I was backpedaling going, oh, okay, this totally didn't go where I thought it was going to go. And I was excited again. And then we get to the end, and this is why the end I didn't like, because, well, it's a paradox. It doesn't have to make sense. And it didn't have anything to do with Nyssa. It didn't have anything to do with
The Wasp.
The Wasp at all, really.
It
or
was
the
Emperor.
the awesome Kansasness of the pesticide. It just had to do with the fact that the Emperor came back and crossed his own time stream and created this thing. But the Doctor didn't feel like he could tell her that. You know,
I didn't like that.
I felt like Nyssa when she looks at him and goes, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's where I was at. I was screaming,
I love that
yeah, you're right, it doesn't make any sense.
I love that they called it out, too.
Yeah, exactly. Because she calls it out, that cleaned the ending for me, though. Because I was there, too, going, well, I want to know. And he does that typical Doctor answer, and she's like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I liked that, though. That was a clean ending for me. Because
it wasn't. Like I said, I just...
It seemed a little rushed to me.
Leading up to make Nyssa the cause of this paradox, and having an explanation for it versus not explaining it and her not being part of it. It just felt like it was such a thrown gear that it threw me there at the end. I don't know. I mean, this is... Not only is it the best Fifth Doctor Nyssa that we've reviewed, this is probably one of the best Dalek stories, period.
Agreed.
And
Audio or
period.
General?
Period.
Period.
General.
Wow.
I'll put it that
I would
high on the
agree.
list.
I would agree.
It may not be
Genesis?
It may not be the best, but it's up
I don't
there.
think it's the best either, but it's up
It's
there.
top
Yeah.
5 for sure. And I think that's what comes from Nicholas Briggs writing it, having... I mean, he's got some experience with these guys. And
Only a little bit.
Just a little bit. And I think that this is kind of where his expertise being funneled into this kind of showed what can be done with them, as opposed to Genesis Machine, which I enjoyed, but, you know, as opposed to Apocalypse Elements, which I enjoyed, but not so much. I mean, this one really showcased what the Daleks can be in an audio. And it worked so well.
And the
on
other
so
two
many
were
levels.
power grabs. This one wasn't. And that was
Yeah.
a nice change of pace for a Dalek story in general. That it's not a power grab.
I'm not sure that this is the first one that names this, but we get a name for what a paradox that creates a loop in time, in the sense that something later in the future causes something in the past that causes that paradox.
The such and such paradox.
It's the temporal paradox. It was the first time that we actually hear that named,
That makes
which
sense.
is
That's a common sense
what we
name.
created in the short film we made,
Oh, yes.
The Ring.
1221.
Yep, it was a temporal paradox. Sorry, thought I brought that up.
No, I agree with you. And I wish I could remember now, because he did. It had a specific... It wasn't temporal paradox. It was a...
No, he called it a temporal paradox.
No, I thought it had a real name. Like
No.
it was the Higgs boson. This was the blah, blah, blah paradox.
Because he said, "Do you know what a temporal paradox is?" And she does.
Okay.
She does know what it is, which was cool too. That she's able to answer him what it is. When someone in time, at one event in time, creates a loop in time by. I don't remember exactly how she said it, but I specifically remember him saying temporal paradox. So.
Well, is there anything else to say about the story?
I don't think so. It's
fantastic.
It's and I love tying back into old Doctor stuff. Old Doctor.
It's one of the best Dalek stories I've listened to, and I agree with you guys. Top of scene, and one of the best Doctor Who stories I've listened to so far.
This, I think, definitely illustrates where Big Finish can go. I mean,
And what number is this? This is 15.
This is 15. We've kind of been down on a couple of the other ones that we've reviewed recently because they just haven't been up to snuff, and we've talked about, hopefully they'll get their legs
This
under
is
them.
where they find their legs.
This is definitely one of the ones that illustrates what's
Apocalypse
possible.
Element, I think they're finding their legs at this point. This is the one where, when I listened to this, I went, okay, finally Davison gets a good story.
Yes.
Finally. And this is only his fourth story.
6 has
Total,
gotten
right?
other good stories before this. So
we have heard all of his.
No, we have not.
Is there one more in there?
one more before it.
There's two that we have not got to yet.
We listened to Sirens.
And we listened to
Phantasmagoria
Land of
is the
Dead.
first solo one for him, and then Land of the Dead, Red Dawn,
Oh, Red Dawn.
Red
is in
Dawn,
there.
yeah.
and Winter for the Adept.
Okay.
And that's before the story?
And those all, well, technically, yeah. Chronologically, I mean,
Release
they're-
order.
Release order, yes.
Yes. Okay.
And we
release order, because some of those are with Perry.
Well, we will do Winter for the
Some of
Adept.
these
In
are
fact,
with
Winter
Lisa.
for the Adept
That's
is
right.
up in 2 weeks on the schedule. But Red Dawn, I'm holding off on. A, because it's Perry with the Fifth Doctor, and you were concerned about.
I was going to be completely thrown by
you want
that
to be introduced
aspect.
to Perry with the Fifth Doctor for real before you get an audio bit.
Sure, understandably so.
And there's a certain
adversary
that may be in. I'm not going to give anything out, but Red Dawn might kind of indicate something. Didn't to me. I listened to it and got all the way into it, and then they showed up. I was like, ooh! Clueless. Looking back, it's like, oh, I should have seen that coming. But no, this to me really gave me hope, because I kind of, after Keith's criticisms through Genocide Machine and how much he didn't like listening to Daleks, and then getting into the apocalypse element for me and going...
That was me that was
it you
complaining
that-
about the Daleks in Genocide
I thought we both
Machine.
were,
I thought you
actually.
both were. I was the only person that liked it, but I thought it was Keith that
I
specifically
was one
said
that
he
said
doesn't
it just,
like listening to
no,
them.
it just rattled my... that particular one, there was just way too much.
I
of it.
have
It just
more
rattled
issue
my
with the
brain.
whispering villains than the Dalek
I
screaming.
think that's what it was. But yeah, just...
I don't like the Dalek screaming, but I have
commented
more
how
issue.
there was too much Dalek.
Okay,
In
well-
fact, I said I was kind of hesitant to listen to the Dalek Empire stories now, because there's got to be more Dalek in that.
Yeah.
But these two were a good balance, though.
Yeah,
I would agree.
and that's after your comments. Then I was a little nervous going into tonight's show, knowing that there were two. And I'll be honest, I kind of put them off. I didn't get through them until today.
Other than Apocalypse Element, having the volume issue, there isn't as much constant talking from Daleks in these.
Yeah,
that's
true.
when I think it's broke up enough.
Yeah.
There in
I mean, that's one of
Genocide
the things
Machine,
they learned their lesson. Maybe.
yeah, maybe in Genocide Machine, there's literally 4 or 5 minute chunks of audio just between Daleks. That's what was grating. That was bad in audio form.
And hard to keep track of who was talking.
I don't know. I think they have a difference in pitch enough that it was. I thought I have followed along so far. They've done a good job of that, I thought. By the way, this was loosely adapted from an audio visual that Nicholas Briggs also wrote.
So hopefully this gives us a good feeling for going into the next
Which, having listened to,
Dalek story.
this is a nice set. These 2, even 3, are a good setup. I feel like when I go back to re-listen to this next Dalek story, I will appreciate it a little bit more.
Good.
Which is set right in the middle of Paul McGann's next batch.
Yay.
Which we got to get through a few more McGanns first.
Yeah.
But even before that, what's up next?
Well, it's odd that you should mention that, because coming up next on the Vortex schedule, it didn't sound anything like paper, did it?
It didn't. It's like
Really
you're rapping on a wall.
Friday Night Who this coming week, The Horns of Nyman with Tom Baker and Romana. 2.
Yeah.
And we're actually going to do a Nyman archive. Yeah, I'm not crazy.
No, you're not crazy. It's a Nyman archive.
Yeah, well, I looked at it, and for some reason it looked weird.
That's because the title doesn't give it away. Wait!
The Mutant Phase. What do you mean? There are Daleks in this? We're doing Big Finish number 30 in the main line, Seasons of Fear.
Which is the next 8th Doctor story
it's
for
the
our
next
line.
in line for what we've been doing in the 8th Doctor. And Paul
Times that
McGann.
well.
And it happens to feature the Nyman. So we get a Nyman archive next week, which will be
All
fun.
right.
Which I've listened to this story, and I wish I would have time to listen to it after seeing
Horns of Nyman.
Horns of Nymon. So maybe this week I'm going to watch Horns of Nymon before Friday Night Who.
Makes it easier to tweet along when you've
I
seen
bet it
would. Oh, you don't know hardly, do you?
No, I don't.
You always through a new one. Every once in a while you get the
new series, and that's
ones.
it.
Is, yeah.
So there are updated schedule is already on the website for those of you that are liking to follow along at home. I've gone ahead and posted it all the way up through the end of mid to the end of August. Keep in mind, obviously, not knowing when the new series is coming back, we are in a state of flux.
Right.
That could change tomorrow.
Right.
But this is what our plan is at this point, is to review those, and then
And all indicators are pointing we should be fine.
all indicators are pointing we should find. Yeah. But indicators are kind of like TARDIS console monitors. They do strange things. Sometimes they go out. Sometimes you land on a planet you didn't mean to.
But we'll keep you up to date.
But we will keep you up to date with any changes as they develop.
All right. That's all. Let's call it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.